All sports, all the time.
There's heroes and there's legends. Heroes get remembered. Legends never die.
This is the Spoken Podcast.
Hold your ears, folks. It's showtime.
I'm your host, Lance Twidwell.
Man, that kid, he can ball, man. He can ball.
Touchdown, Kansas City!
Patrick freaking Mahomes, baby!
Let's talk some sports, because that's what we're here to do.
You are tuned in to The Spoken.
This is the Spoken Podcast. I'm your host, Lance Twidwell. Here inside the Starcade Media Studio, my guy, Trevor Twidwell.
What's good?
Episode 199 in full swing, full motion, man. We are so happy to be here with you guys and for you to be here with us, whether you are live streaming, whether you are podcasting, or whether you are YouTube. We want to thank you so much for being here with us in this time. We have a lot of sports stuff to get to, man. We are literally one episode away from cracking to 200, and it's so fitting too. By the way, Happy New Year's to everybody that's watching this, that's listening to this. We hope that 2023 is going to be everything you guys need it to be. I'm not one of those people that usually segments my life too much into the year column. I think everything kind of runs together, but nevertheless, I know a lot of people out there are. But it's so fitting to me, Trevor, that episode 200 will be our first into the 2023 year, and I think that's pretty cool. Yep. As I've talked about before, the fact that our 50th episode was the following episode of the Chiefs winning their first Super Bowl in 50 years, and just seeing these things happen. I know our guys over the Kingdom Says podcast just dropped their 100th episode, and seeing some of our other content creators, our brothers, our sisters in the community dropping episodes like that are milestones, that are landmarks. It's always impressive to see, and I love seeing it, and we're very proud to very soon in the next 7 days be eclipsing 200 episodes here at the Spoken Podcast. It's been a lot of fun. I thank you all so much for being a part of this. Unfortunately, somebody that's not going to be a part of this today is going to be our guy Eddie Ortiz. Unfortunately for him, he's under the weather today. He tried to make it in. He tried to help us out, get everything started. He did get everything started today, but he just could not get it going, and I don't blame him at all. I totally get it, and we wish him the best. Also, before we start the show, guys, two more things, and I promise we'll get to some sports talk because that's why we're here. First and foremost, I want to say happy birthday to our producer, the most important piece and asset to everything we do here at the Spoken Podcast, to the great Clay Wendler, our producer. He's been a guy that since day one, I mean, him and I have been friends for years, and we've loved Clay ever since the day we've pretty much met the guy. We hit it off immediately. We're mutual friends of Shaggy Shane Williams. The moment me and Eddie and I decided to start this podcast and then bring Trevor along about a week, episode 2, since then Trevor's been with the show. Clay has been such a support. He does so much in the background that nobody really knows about, but when you hear the show, when you see the show, so much of what goes on in the front and in the back screen of everything is Clay's work, and we can't thank him enough. He does incredible work at Red Tribe Cinema as well. I think it's the best channel that has anything to do with sports, anything to do with Chiefs. He's just so good at what he does, and he's a humble guy. He doesn't really like to tote or talk about it. He doesn't really give himself a lot of praise, a lot of credit, but the dude is incredibly talented at what he does. I love the guy. He's a brother to me, and I'm really excited to Trevor and I are going to be joining him and Shane this week to watch the Chiefs Broncos game this week. It's something we don't get to do enough, but we do it enough to be able to catch up and be together as friends, man. And I always enjoy the times I get to be with those guys, and I just wanted to put that out there at the top of the show. Clay, you're our guy. We appreciate you. If you're watching, if you're listening, we love you to death, man. We can't thank you enough for what you do here for us at the Spoken Podcast. Also, if you are not already subscribed to our YouTube channel, please go ahead and get on that, man. We would greatly appreciate it. If you're already watching, you're already listening, I mean, obviously you're interested enough in this show, go ahead and hit that subscribe button, hit the notification button, and you guys will get our content as soon as it is dropped, as soon as we go live, or whenever you're in the middle of the week and you just want to get your mind off things and listen to a show and listen to a bunch of idiots talking some sports. You found the perfect place. Go ahead and hit the subscribe button. But we got a lot to get to, guys, like I said. We got some MVP discussions that I want to get to. We got some possible destinations Trevor, Eddie, and I were talking about this week. We actually dropped our locations. Rather, I did, but I haven't heard Trevor's yet when it comes to where we think Derek Carr and Tom Brady will be playing next year. I say Tom Brady confidently because I do believe he will be playing football next season. I don't think he's going to go out like this because I think this is just a really bad way to go out when you've had a career as great as he has. I think he wants to give himself another opportunity of winning another Super Bowl. And like I said, Derek Carr is going to have a market himself, and I wanted to talk about that. Like I said, MVP discussion. I think we all know who's going to win the MVP, but it's always fun to discuss the other guys that are surrounding the favorite and see who may sneak in there because there's still 2 weeks of football left. You never know how these things go. But I want to definitely discuss that. We're obviously going to be talking about Week 17 NFL picks. It's going to really suck, man, because we got 2 weeks left of this, and I love this segment. Trevor and I, we always have a blast doing this, talking about where we see the slate going, man. There's some big games this week, some really big games. They're going to decide playoff seedings, decide if teams make the playoffs. A lot of fun matchups this week, and I want to get to those as well. And, of course, we're going to be talking about the Chiefs and Broncos at the end of this, towards the end of the show. So stay tuned for that. You're not going to want to miss that because there's going to be some interesting matchups with this one. Now there's been a lot of influx of the Broncos coaching staff. And then we'll end the show by handing out some L's as we do each and every week. But I want to start here with the Chiefs and Seahawks matchup that we had last Saturday on Christmas Eve. We talked on the show about how I was expecting this to be a game that both teams are going to be trading blows offensively. I said the Chiefs are going to win this game 38-31. I thought the Seahawks were going to come in here and put on some points because of the way the Chiefs defense have played over the last couple of weeks when it comes to giving up red zone scores, pretty much how they've been doing all season. I think the Chiefs defense is better than what their numbers sometimes indicate, but I have seen some worries and some concerns. And the way that the Chiefs defense has played this season at home against good quarterbacks, I was worried about Geno Smith coming in here with the DK Metcalf, Kenneth Walker, a team that needed to come in here and get a victory to salvage their season and try to get themselves in the playoff picture again. I thought they were going to come in here, put up some points, and Patrick Mahomes was going to have to put the team on his back and have a heroic ending. Well, that did happen, but in a different sense, and we'll get to that in a second. But like I said, much lower scoring game than I had anticipated. The Chiefs only scoring 24 and the Seahawks only scoring 10. 7 of those points were only in garbage time, so the Seahawks really only scored 3 points. And I'm going to get to the Chiefs defense in a second. The Chiefs have won at least 12 games for the 5th consecutive season, which is the 3rd longest streak in NFL history. Do you know that, Trevor? 3rd longest streak in NFL history the Chiefs are on right now. With
Makes sense.
12-plus victories in consecutive fashion. Nothing short of incredible. I know that we don't really, now we shouldn't at least, in the Mahomes era, we don't really count regular season as like a consolation prize. I remember being a Chiefs fan growing up, like, oh, you got 10 wins. I mean, that's a good season. So what if we didn't make the playoffs? So what if we lost in the first round? They had a good season. Now it's, oh, you got 12 wins. Oh, that's good. So what do we do in the postseason? Like that's right. Where we're at now, and I love that. I love that that's changed. But nevertheless, when you win at least 12 games, 5 consecutive seasons, that is something you have to pay homage to and give respect to, because that is something that is definitely worth the respect that it should garner. But let me get the negatives out of the way when it comes to this particular matchup, because there were a couple, and I want to get those out of the way because I want to give this team a lot of credit as well, and I promise you I will. The Chiefs' offense continues to come out slow and inefficient. And it's pissing me off, Trey. I ain't going to lie. They did not score a touchdown on their opening drive, which now makes it 11 straight games where they couldn't punch it in early. With an offense as great as this is, that is just simply inexcusable. This was a concern I brought up on this show yesterday, or on the show last week, and I will continue to do so until they prove to me that they can put an opposing defense on their heels from the jump, because they just don't do it. They haven't done it since week 4 against the Buccaneers, and the Buccaneers put the Chiefs in prime position with that opening kickoff fumble. They put the Chiefs on the 21-yard line. If I'm opposing teams and I win the toss to start the game, I'm putting the Chiefs offense on the field first. I know that sounds nuts because Patrick Mahomes is the greatest quarterback in the world. He's going to win his 2nd career MVP, in my opinion, and Trevor's opinion, I'm sure. But this offense does not score on opening drives. And if you are if you're deferring, or if you're saying, no, we're going to kick to you, and you get a punt, you won that toss right then and there. And the Chiefs give the ball right back to the opposition far more than they go out there and they punch it up and you're down 7-0 before you get the ball. And it's so odd because, again, most teams bank on their opening drives or what they considered scripted drives, but the Chiefs don't do that. Instead, they when they pour it on, when they love to pour it on, it's when they pour it on us in the second quarter and beyond. They kind of start off clunky, and all of a sudden they just click. They find something. They do it in the opposite way most teams do. Most teams try to get early leads and just kind of bank on that. The Chiefs are one of those weird teams. They like to go down for some weird reason. They like to be down 7, 10, 13 points, and then all of a sudden they go on a 27-0 drive, a run. It's the weirdest thing. And although they didn't exactly pour it on in this game, they did the exact same thing I'm talking about. They scored 17 of their 24 points after the first quarter. They started off extremely slow. And I know people talking about the weather. If the Chiefs came out and they poured it on 3-4 times in a row before this game, I'd be like, oh yeah, dude, clearly like the weather was affecting them. It's no big deal. Like, I get that. Like, it's going to happen. No, they don't do it. And this is a real problem because you're going to be facing teams that probably will kick to the Chiefs first, and they'll have Joe Burrow on the other side. They'll have a Josh Allen. They'll have a Lamar Jackson. They'll have a capable quarterback, a guy that says, okay, you now punt, I now go score. Like, that's going to happen in the postseason if you don't get this shit correct. And it's starting to really drive me crazy that the Chiefs didn't do this or continue to not do this. A lot of the Chiefs' offensive problems to me, and I think it coincides with what's going on with why they can't score on opening drives, is the absence of Mecole Hardman. And it's not just Mecole Hardman, because I do believe that he's a valuable piece more so than he's ever been before, because the absence of Tyreek Hill elevates Mecole Hardman even more so. And also the fact that MVS is just showing that he's just a wide receiver 3, wide receiver 4, not really a guy that you can rely on to go out there and make big plays on a consistent basis, whereas Mecole, again, is even further elevated because MVS was an offseason. He was considered an offseason acquisition that was notable. But it's also the fact that with Mecole Hardman being down, Justin Watson has also been added up to the equation. And this is something that I talked about on the Chief Concern postgame show with Jason Dunn and Marcus Dash this week, is that Justin Watson has brick hands, man. And it's worrisome. Yeah. We saw how versatile and dangerous the offense was when Mecole Hardman was clicking. I mean, that 49er game alone proved that. But since then, Watson has gotten more opportunity. He's been putting the ball on the ground far too often for a wide receiver 4. Just in recent memory, just the last couple weeks, he had a drop on a 56-yard dime from Patrick Mahomes in the back of the end zone. He put it on the money right in the middle of the field, and Justin Watson just dropped it. And it was in a dome, wasn't cold, it was perfect weather. Ball hit you right in the hands. Defender wasn't all over you. It wasn't like a contested ball. Ball hit you right in the freaking palms, dude. You got to bring that one in. And then this week against the Seahawks, multiple times, a couple on third down, ball hits him right in the hands. Patrick puts it on the money, would have extended the drive, potentially gave the Chiefs an opportunity to score, drops him.
Him and Kelsey both in that drive dropped the ball.
And the difference between Kelsey and Justin Watson, though, is that Kelsey can make it up with it for having 74 yards on one drive and later in the game, or I don't know, being, I think, second in the league in touchdowns right now, being like fifth in the league in receiving yards. Like, he makes up for it. So we can overlook Travis Kelsey dropping a pass here and there. You can't be a wide receiver 3, wide receiver 4, wide receiver 5, and dropping passes at this magnitude when you're given opportunities to play at a high level. Without Mecole Hardman, we need Justin Watson to play well. And we gave him his credit, even in the 49ers game when Mecole was there, when he got that touch on the back of the end zone. We're like, man, this Justin Watson guy, whenever he's getting the opportunities, he's making plays. Yep. Gets the Chargers in week 2.
He's fast.
Catches that 47-yard touchdown from Patrick Mahomes. We're thinking, oh, okay, this guy's going to add a little, versatility to this offense, add depth. And since then, he's squandered opportunities, man. And we should have known that when Tom Brady was ready to move on from this offseason, and I can see why. The Chiefs also, just to note, guys, in this game, in these last 2 games, well, this week, the Chiefs went 3 for 11 on third down and are 9 for 23 in their last 2 games on third downs. In other words, Mecole Hardman needs to get back yesterday. I'm not saying he's a fix-all. I don't believe that. But this offense has clearly been more fluid, more effective, more versatile with him on the field. I think Kadarius Toney's going to add another dimension because what I think Andy Reid needs to do is add Kadarius Toney on the third downs.
All he does is score touchdowns.
Because he scored a touchdown against the Seahawks, which is obviously a positive. Kadarius Toney, I think, needs to be more of a third down option. I think he needs to be a guy, because you're seeing the Chiefs are starting to struggle on third downs because I think what defense is doing is just locking down on Travis Kelsey and are forcing him to find either a Juju Smith-Schuster or an MVS, sprinkle in a Justin Watson or a Noah Gray. Some of those guys can be very reliable. I know Juju has been when he's been healthy. But I think Kadarius Toney, with his speed, agility, being able to get off the line the way he does, I think Sky Moore needs to get more opportunities as well. We saw a play that Patrick forced to Travis Kelsey in the middle of the field for like 5 yards. Sky Moore ran a boot route or a wheel route rather, and was wide open on the side of the, I mean, if he walked into the end zone, it'd have been like a 28, 29-yard touchdown.
Yeah.
So there needs to be more opportunity. I'm not going to criticize Patrick Mahomes for hitting wide receivers because he's hit 12 different receivers for a touchdown this season. So I'm not going to criticize the man for what he's doing. The record's 13. But I do think that there needs to be a little bit more trust, and I think there needs to be a little more, and I think with McCole Hardman on the field, I think there is a trust between Patrick Mahomes and McCole Hardman far more than there is for Sky Moore, even into the credit Kadarius Toney to this point, just because of the time they've spent together. They've been teammates since 2019. So I think that getting him back is going to be huge for the team. Oh, and another negative that I want to bring up, Trevor, it's on the other side of the field, and then I'm going to be done with my negatives, I swear. Spags. Stop taking snaps from Willie Gay. Stop. I do not care how good or how decent Darius Harris looked when Willie Gay was suspended. I don't care. You see a significant difference between the two when Willie Gay's on the field and when Darius Harris is on the field. Willie Gay is a starting linebacker in this league. Darius Harris is not. He's a good fill-in backup linebacker. He is not a guy that needs to be taking snaps from an ultimate difference maker. I showed you guys, when Willie Gay was gone, I showed you guys that the Chiefs' defense, since Willie Gay got drafted, in games he starts and in games he doesn't start, there is an 8-point-per-game difference. In games that Willie Gay did not play or did not start, the Chiefs' defense was giving up 28 points per game. In games he does start and does play in, 20 points per game. That's not Darius Harris. Harris isn't that guy. I don't know what Spags is doing with that. I have no idea why he's doing that. But Willie Gay needs to be playing as many snaps as possible. And I went and made sure I wasn't crazy. I went and looked up our guy Charles Goldman on Chiefs Wire. He said the exact same thing on his website this week. That Willie Gay he's got to play more snaps. I don't know why Spags is doing it. It's driving me crazy. He did that again in the Seahawks game, and it was, I think, the only time the Chiefs defense really was giving up anything is when you saw the absence of Willie Gay. I don't know why he's doing it, but please, for the love of God, Spags, stop doing it.
Especially Willie Gay being one of the few guys that can make like big pivotal plays.
Yes.
Just like that pick six the other week. Like,
right.
He's one of those guys that can do that.
Outside of that, I honestly didn't take away much negative in this game because the Chiefs finally decided to not turn the ball over. The first time they decided to do that, 9 games, Trevor.
Called that.
That's definitely a positive. We'll take that every single week. Not to mention the fact that the defense was simply unreal in this game. Mostly when Willie Gay was out there, but I digress. As slow as inefficient as the offense was in this one, as cold as it was outside, the defense was hot from the first drive. They didn't allow a first down until midway through the second quarter. We're talking about the 7th-ranked scoring offense in the Seahawks coming into Kansas City, must-win game. And they didn't allow them to have a first down for a quarter and a half. They didn't allow they didn't have a penalty. The Chiefs didn't have a penalty until 2 minutes were left in the second quarter. The Chiefs defense had multiple sacks, another for George Karlaftis, which is now 4 in his last 5 games.
Okay.
And now he's leading all rookies in batted balls as well. And I think he's one of the top in the league in batted balls this year. Dude's like literally Dikembe Mutombo if he was from Greece. And they forced a turnover. This is something this defense has not been doing this year. So there was a lot of positives, man, from the defensive side in this game. All in all, it was a very impressive game from the defense and is exactly what they needed to have and experience as a young nucleus. I think there's 6 starting players on the team that are rookies on the defensive side. They needed this game moving closer to the postseason. We talked about how these final few games, they needed to be building blocks for this defense to gain confidence, to gain clarity of what they need to do and execute. And I think this is that game they could finally do that, man, moving towards this Broncos game, moving to that Raiders game, and then seeing what happens in the playoffs, man. I could not have been more impressed by the defense in this one, man. I mean, they really made life hard for Geno Smith. They made things difficult for Kenneth Walker. They really, I mean, I think the Seahawks ended up having 100 rushing yards, but it didn't matter. Yeah, they had 133 rushing yards, but they were only 2 of 14 from third down. So they were terrible from third down. Chiefs were not giving them any life, man. And it wasn't until that final drive in the first half when they had 3 penalties that the Seahawks even got in scoring range. And they got a field goal.
Tom Brady drive right there.
Yeah, man. Yeah. So, I mean, outside of that one horrific drive and then a garbage time touchdown, the Chiefs' defense was flawless. So I want to give them all the respect in this game. Spags, like I said, it's head-scratching that you keep taking Willie Gay off for Darius Harris in these situations. But outside of that, man, like this was the best game this defensive line I think had outside of maybe the Jaguars game. I think this defensive line looked incredible. Carlos Dunlap was in the backfield all day. George Karlaftis was in the backfield. Frank Clark, I don't know what got into him.
He's been balling.
But for the love of God, stay in there. Whatever is inside Frank Clark's body right now, stay the hell in there because this dude is a madman right now. If Frank Clark keeps playing like this, the Chiefs are going to win the Super Bowl.
Playing for that next contract, man.
My God. Please, Frank, do not stop doing what you're doing, brother. You are killing it right now. Like the defensive line looks so good in this game that Chris Jones, although he was very good in this game, he was like the third note of the defensive line.
He had the most pressures, though.
Yeah, he had the most pressures. But like Karlaftis, Dunlap, Frank Clark, Mike Dana. Mike Dana got a sack. Like these guys doing what they're doing, like that's what I want to see is that it doesn't have to be Chris Jones and a bunch of guys. It needs to be Chris Jones and these dudes are over here killing it with him. It needs to be a tandem, a tag team. And my final note, I'm going to get to Trevor, and I would be remiss if I didn't say it. Patrick Mahomes locked up the MVP in this game. And I know his numbers weren't insanely great or anything. Like, he didn't put up huge numbers. I think he had, 236 passing yards. If I'm not mistaken, let me look at his numbers. 224 passing yards.
2 passing
16 to 28, 2 touchdowns, 2 passing touchdowns, 1 rushing touchdown. But it's the way he did it. Because we all know that the MVP is a narrative-driven accolade. And we saw in his first season, the reason why he was running away with that MVP, should have been a unanimous MVP, but I ain't going to bitch too much about it. Threw 50 touchdowns and 5,000 yards in his first season as a starting quarterback. Like that, you're going to get the MVP.
Not bad.
This season, we all know Tyreek Hill's gone. And Patrick Mahomes absolutely, once again, put the team on his back. Did a, like Trevor likes to say, over my dead body kind of performance. And again, even though the numbers weren't insane, to be able to do what he does, where he and I know Bobby Stroop, his trainer, talks about it all the time on his Twitter account about how Patrick is so fundamental with his body, learning how to use angles and use how to, like the way he takes care of himself, plays like what we saw on that touchdown rush when he scrapes the pylon.
Yeah.
You don't see quarterbacks even like Lamar Jackson and even Josh Allen do that stuff on a normal basis. That was such a rare touchdown because the way he angles his body, where he puts all of his body weight on his left hand and just extends just enough to just scrape the pylon. Those are the plays that decide Super Bowls. That's why every single time, I always talk about it, guys, at the beginning of the season, if the team is just good enough around Patrick Mahomes, I'm going to pick the Chiefs to win the Super Bowl.
Yeah, when you say a guy has it, that's what we're talking about.
That's the it.
Intangible things like that.
And not to mention the fact that in the last 2 games, in the fourth quarter and overtime, Patrick Mahomes is 15 of 17 for 194 passing yards, 24 rushing yards, 2 rushing touchdowns, and a 2-point conversion. Like, that is insanely efficient numbers. And again, I've heard Nick Wright say it. I've heard a lot of people say it. We've gotten to the point now, it's basically LeBron James. LeBron James in year 20 just had a 47-point game at 38 years old on his birthday. And we're just sitting here going, oh, yeah. LeBron, yeah, that's what he does. Yeah. This is what Patrick Mahomes is becoming.
That's true, man.
Doing the things he's doing, like that little like that should have been the play of the season.
Yeah.
But we're just like, oh, it's Patrick Mahomes. He does cool stuff like every week. That isn't something that should just be done every week. No one in the history of football makes plays like this every week outside of Patrick Mahomes. So he racked up the MVP in my eyes. He locked it up. I know Jalen Hurts was in the running, but he's missing. He's going to miss multiple games. I know they're hinting at him maybe playing this week. We can talk about it in a second. But even if he does, Patrick Mahomes has been so much more significantly valuable to his team because the Eagles are about as complete of a roster outside of the 49ers in the NFL. So no offense to Jalen Hurts, but Patrick Mahomes has so much more riding on him to decide the outcomes of games. Like the Eagles just last week against the Cowboys had 4 turnovers, 5 turnovers, and lost in the last second by 6 points.
Yeah.
On the road against a Dallas team that has to win that game.
Yeah, Gardner Minshew had over 400 passing yards and like 3 touchdowns.
You know what I'm saying? Like, you don't have Chad Henne coming in here, going on the road against, like, say, even like the Chargers, a far less team than the This moment is bring up the fact that if you're a Chiefs fan, do not take this shit for granted, man. Appreciate everything that we're seeing right now because we've never seen anything like Patrick Mahomes. And if this defense plays anything close to what they just did against the Seahawks, again, a very good Seahawks offense. I know they didn't have Tyler Lockett, but they still had multiple weapons on that offense that could have made things a living hell for the Chiefs in this game. And they didn't because the Chiefs defense shut their asses down. All respect to Spags. All respect to this defense. Man, they won this game. Patrick Mahomes locked up the MVP. I feel great as a Chiefs fan right now. Not a lot. Like I said, not a lot of negatives to take away from this game. But what did you see in this one, Trev?
I mean, I felt confident from what I predicted this game to be. Outside, I did have us scoring 40 points, which I think we should have. But like you said, all the negatives tend to come from the offensive side in this game. Even though we played a clean game, we didn't turn the ball over, which I predicted us to win the turnover battle in this one. I didn't think we'd have a turnover. I think that's something we had to correct. I thought we would correct it against the Texans, but we decided not to. So this had to be the week. And this was just something about it. I had a gut feeling about this being a get-right spot for our defense. I think the defense was really upset with themselves last week against that poor performance against the Texans, who we should have absolutely shut down. But we allowed way too much, and that was embarrassing to put on tape. And I think those guys, if we, like I say every week, if we know something's wrong, if we identify an issue from watching it as fans, these players know it. These players know it too. These coaches know it too from the film room. So that it bothers them that much more. So these guys are going to want to go out there and correct their wrongs. So that's what this defense did. They got after the quarterback. They got after Geno Smith, who's been a top quarterback this year, who's going to win some awards probably this year.
Yeah.
For a minute there was in the MVP race just because of his. I know they've fallen off as of late, but they were one of the best offenses in the league this year. So in my mind, I was pretty much correct in how I predicted this game to go as far as the scoring differential. I know they scored a garbage time touchdown. Didn't really matter to me. That game was already over. We held them out of the end zone the entire game until that point. Extremely impressed with our defense. Extremely impressed with George Karlaftis, how he's coming up as of late. Just like Justin Reed said, these rookies are not rookies anymore at this point of the season. Heading into the postseason, they're veterans now.
Yep.
They're established in this league. They've had their reps. It's time to grow. You know what I mean? So I love that quote from our leader at times, Justin Reed. So. Yeah, man. Defensively, and this is, I'm just gonna gloat on the defense. That was Mahomes just went out there. It was another day at the office for him, making another Hall of Fame type of play to put the team on his back. This is just something, like you said, don't take this shit for granted. This is stop and smell the roses kind of moment. It's just a weekly thing. We expect it from him. He's just changed the entire aura of this franchise and this fan base to where we expect these kind of things on a nightly and daily basis going into these games. We're spoiled in a sense for sure since he's been here, and I'm forever grateful. And heading into this new year, I'm grateful for Patrick Mahomes. I am definitely grateful for that guy as my quarterback in this team. So, but yeah, overall, the quarterbacks played well, safeties played well. Thornhill made some plays. It was good to see him making. I think didn't he have a pick? He was the one that had the pick, right?
Yeah, the pick in the back of the end zone.
So it was good to see him, make some plays because he's at times this season has looked bad. He was, talking about, heading into this season, talking about being an All-Pro and all these things. It's not going to happen, but it's good to see him out there making plays and take advantage of his moments and shining when he gets the chance to. So I was glad to see that for his morale heading into the postseason. Going to need him, in the right state of mind. Anytime a guy can make a play like that in a big moment, it's still a solid big game. Is good for guys like that to boost them personally, to give them that next gear, because sometimes you just need that play to find that next gear for you. So I was good to see him get there. Frank Clark is getting that juices flowing. Look like he's primed for the postseason. I'm loving it. He looks fast. He looks killing it off the edge. Just out there making plays. He looked at 2019 Frank, man, and if that should scare anybody with the way we're batting balls down, the way he's getting after quarterbacks, and the way Chris Jones is consistently living in the in the backfield. So yeah, overall, man, not much to talk about offensively. Kadarius Toney, I did say he would score. That was my guy going into this game. I love what the future holds for this guy in this offense. I really do. I think Andy Reid's gonna have a lot of fun with him. I don't think he's a gadgety guy. I know that play he scored on was kind of like one of those McCole Hardman type of plays, gadgety kind of plays. I think this guy's gonna be really, really good as long as he stays healthy. You got to have that asterisk there, that caveat to where he might have some injuries here and there, the hamstring, soft tissue issues. Nothing serious he's ever had in his career, but those are lingering things. We've seen it with the likes of Sammy Watkins, who couldn't stay on the field, but he's great when he's on the field with this offense. So I love the future, and I love the idea of having him and McCole ready to go for the postseason. That's a scary thought for opposing defenses. We're going to need that boost. And I agree with you too with the absence of, we can't afford to have the absence of McCole Hardman for this long, and it shows. I mean, with McCole Hardman scoring as many times as he has this year, he's been the most efficient receiver for this team. As far as scoring, it's not even close. I know Juju's had his moments and had his big games. He had his 10 catch games and his yardage and things like that, and he had a couple double touchdown games and things like that. But McCole has been the most efficient, most deadly receiver for this team this year when he's on the field. Maybe not as like a traditional receiving receiver, but the way we get him the ball, the way he knows he has that nose for the end zone. Andy Reid, the marriage between those two is definitely developed. Like you said, with the absence of Tyreek Hill, losing McCole without him as well is just a void in this offense that it's hard to fill, and then being without Tony for a couple weeks before these last couple games is being big too. So this offense is still kind of finding itself, man. I know that's not fun to hear, but we haven't been at full strength really at any point this season. We've kind of been in and out with a couple guys here and there, new guys still learning the system. Say what you want, Juju still new here. This is not all. This is still a lot of things, and I think we're going to catch our stride at the right time. I think we are doing that right now, and I really didn't care what I saw from the offense that much this game. I know it is annoying seeing us not go score on our scripted drives, because that's everyone's supposed to at least have some kind of success, whether you get some kind of points or look good on your scripted drives. We just tend to be the team that does the opposite. We look better on our off scripted drives when we're kind of reeling a little bit, and Patrick Mahomes has to go out there and make something happen. That's not what you want, though.
Yeah.
You like I've said, like I was just saying when we were watching the game. Can the Chiefs just have like a traditional drive where Patrick Mahomes, drops back a couple steps, 2-3 steps, and just delivers a good ball? We can consistently just matriculate down the field and just go get a touchdown like a traditional way. It is kind of tiring as a Chiefs fan to kind of like, oh, what's Pat gonna do here? Oh shit, the pocket's crumbling. He's escaping. That's fun. That's fun and it's enjoyable when it works out. But at the same time, you just want to kind of have a relaxed, nice little drive, and that ball that he delivered to Kelsey. A couple steps back, delivered right over the shoulder. That was one of the best balls I've ever seen Pat throw.
Yeah.
It was incredible. No one could throw a better ball than that. That was just unreal. It just dropped it right in the bucket. Things like that. Can you just have like a traditional, not where he has to like run for his life, and land on one arm and reach the pylon? Those are incredible things, but at the same time, we need some just easygoing traditional drives, especially the opening drives. And it hasn't been working out for us, and that is definitely frustrating, knowing how good this offense is, and knowing how great over the years Andy Reid has been at opening drives and scripted plays and things like that. So getting that together is one thing we need to figure out. I'm not worried about this offense in any way, though, especially once we get McCole back, and Blake Bell back is supposed to be coming back too, as another guy that has the trust of Patrick Mahomes. Getting those guys back that Patrick Mahomes trusts is big, regardless of what you think how good those guys are individually. We need this unit healthy. So I was going into this game, I was really just wanted to see what this defense was made of. This was a gut check for the defense, right? Because this is a good offense. Last week we should have mopped those boys up, but we let ourselves down, and it was hard to watch. No business going into overtime with the Texans. That was absolutely embarrassing. Those guys know it. They came out here, they took that gut check, and they performed. Like I said, I don't even count that last touchdown. They shut these boys out, and they were getting after Geno Smith. Whether it was batting the ball down, getting him on the ground, sacks, interceptions. It was just good to see these guys get after him. And I think DK Metcalf had maybe a little over 80 receiving yards, but he didn't even really do much. Kept him out of the end zone. We typically struggle against those kind of guys. So it was just good to see us kind of put some things away and correct some things defensively. Yep. And that's, like I said, heading into the postseason, last couple of weeks of the season, that's really good, and I expect the defense to continue that trend heading into this next couple games that we obviously will dive into. So this is getting on the right track, and this is similar to, obviously we starting a little later than 2019, but 2019, remember early 2019, our defense was struggling a lot through the year, but that second half, towards the the final quarter of that season, they really started kicking it in. Frank Clark, Tyrann Mathieu, a lot of those guys started making plays. That could be a similar trend here. Spags gets kind of get his formula going, and these guys, a lot of these rookies are kind of finding their own way. McDuffie's finding his own way. This could be a trend. Trends are big in the NFL. Momentum's big in the NFL. So if you can start getting things steered in the right direction, momentum can swing your way defensively. This offense will take care of things. I fully believe that. But if this defense gets right, which I'm fully expecting this last game to be the launching pad for that, it's only positive things for me from what I saw. So.
Yeah, and the defense is going to have multiple opportunities even in the postseason because as you said, and as a lot of people have talked about, I've heard Greg Rosenthal even this morning on Around the NFL talk about how he knows that Spag's defenses get better as the season goes on, because I think it is frustrating to watch, but a lot of times he lets offenses that they know they're going to probably see in the playoffs kind of give them their best swing. He plays a bend break style of defense, blitzes a lot, leaves guys on islands a lot of times in bad situations that I will never agree with, especially with rookie cornerbacks.
Right.
But I think there is something to that, especially if opportunities are given to the Chiefs if they end up having to play the Bills or the Bengals in the playoffs, or both, because as we do know, both these offensive lines for the Bills and Bengals are banged up now.
Yeah.
Lael Collins for the Bengals is out for the season with the ACL tear.
Right.
Mitch Morse, I think, suffered another concussion.
Yeah.
And he's probably not going
like 5 in
he's
his
had
career.
a ton.
Yeah.
And that's scary for a guy like Mitch that we love here in Kansas City because the
love
Chiefs
that
drafted
guy.
him. He's a great dude,
guy.
great offensive lineman, an amazing center. But he's down now.
Yeah.
And they have Deion Dawkins, who's been banged up. I mean, there's a lot of opportunity for the Chiefs' defensive line to get right now, and like you said, carry that momentum into these types of matchups. They've already faced these teams, so there'll be that fire and passion to prove that they can beat these teams, especially the Bengals. And with the Lael Collins, their left tackle, being out, that's a humongous loss for the Bengals in this for the rest of the season. And another thing, when it talks about offensive lines, another reason why I feel so confident about this team moving forward is because the Chiefs' offensive line. Trey Smith is having his best season by far, and he was incredible last season. He's playing incredible football every single week. He's throwing men just left and right around. He's throwing people out the club left and right.
This whole offensive line could have been Pro Bowlers.
Did you? I don't know if you saw Chiefs Hive. They posted this a few days ago. Orlando Brown and Joe Thuney both had 33 pass block snaps. So it's 66 total. They gave up 0 pressures combined. 66 combined offensive passing snaps, 0 pressures. That is nothing short of incredible.
Got to find that consistency.
Got to find that consistency.
Because Orlando Brown will have another week, and he's like allowing the most pressures. He's got to find that consistency, man.
You mentioned Chris Jones. He did have a season high 9 pressures this week. Also recorded a sack. His season, I mean, he's by far been the best defensive tackle in the league this season.
Well, and that's what you want to see out of your veterans,
just
too.
Stupid
you want to see Frank Clark and Chris Jones, guys that have been there and done it. Yeah. Lead the way, because that's where it starts, man, in the trenches. If you can do that, no wonder our DBs and our rookie corners are going to look better. Yeah. You got to lead the way. That's what you want to see out of your veterans.
Over the last 3 games, Jerick freaking McKinnon,
bro, he's been our savior on offense.
Yeah,
man.
he has 294 yards of scrimmage with 5 touchdowns in just his last 3 games. In fact, according to Chiefs, I'll give them credit for this. Jerick McKinnon leads all running backs in the NFL in touchdown receptions. He has a total of 6. The next closest is Aaron Jones with 5. Aaron Jones is one of the best running backs in football who gets 350 touches a season. Jerick McKinnon's been a running back 3 since he's been in Kansas City.
Yeah.
Jerick McKinnon has more touchdown receptions this season than Mike Williams, Terry McLaurin, DeAndre Hopkins, Chris Olave, Mike Evans, and Chris Godwin.
Listen, man.
Those are some of the best receivers in football.
There's something to that role in Andy Reid's offense. It's the Damian Williams role. Remember how incredible he was in the 2019 postseason? He had the most touchdowns for the Chiefs' history in the postseason or something like that. What was that? Yeah. He had some kind of record he broke for the Chiefs for the most touchdowns in that postseason run. And then how incredible he was in that, putting the nail in the coffin in the Super Bowl. You know what I mean? Like that role is so vital, man. And that's what, honestly, what sucks is because that's what we thought Clyde was going to be. He just hasn't really developed into that guy, and I think we all can speculate whether he's going to be here or not next season, or even maybe make an appearance this season. Probably not, but McKinnon has been everything and more. I mean, if he's going to be here next year, we're going to lock him up. I'm sure we'll bring him back. He's been nothing but a vital piece, a hero for this offense. Honestly, when we needed a spark, he's been that guy. And our running game has been coming to life, man. Pacheco's really been coming to life outside of that fumble, the other week, which was just an odd thing to happen. He had both hands on the ball and the ball came out. But since that, other than that, he's been great running the ball. He's very decisive. They've been a great 1-2 punch, man, because they're 2 totally different guys, right? One's more elusive and finds the hole and knows how to hit it and is an incredible ball catcher and knows how to find the end zone. The other one's just a banger, wants to run through you, picks a direction immediately and just goes for it. That lightning and thunder kind of combination with those 2 guys has been fun to watch.
Yeah, 100%. I think that it's so funny, like how we've criticized Brett Veach for, having these whiffs in some of these categories. And in the draft, you're always going to have that. And we think that he overpaid Frank Clark. We think that, some of us didn't like the Marcus Peters trade. Yeah. Some of us didn't like some of these moves that they didn't go and get Justin Houston back. They think there's bad blood between them. There's been some things that Brett Veach has done that we don't agree with. But it's almost on an annual basis now, especially in the draft, where he'll find some guys that are deep down in the draft, down way late in the picks, and they emerge as prolific stars on this team.
Yep.
And, I mean, look at L'Jarius Sneed. This dude is even better this season than he was the previous two, which he was incredible in the previous 2 seasons. He hit the ground running. He only played 9 games in his rookie season. He was one of the best corners in football. And this season, he's been the best blitzing corner in the league by an astronomical number, and he's having an all-pro year. Like, the Chiefs better lock his ass up. Yeah. You look at what Joshua Williams and Jalen Watson are doing already. I mean, they had growing pains, but these guys are playing far greater than anyone expected them to this season. And then you look at Isaiah Pacheco, 7th-round running back, is one of the best running backs in the league in yards per carry. One of the best. This is praise to who the team is ran by, which is why I'm wearing my In Veach We Trust shirt, because I always say as long as the team has Patrick Mahomes as their quarterback, they're always going to be in contention for Super Bowls. Yeah. But the biggest reason why that is because it isn't just Patrick Mahomes carrying a bunch of nobodies. It's because they're getting him a bunch of guys that know their role and play it at a high level, regardless of whether they're big acquisitions in free agency or a trade or a first-round pick or a 7th-round pick or an undrafted free agent. You're finding these guys that are adding to the puzzle, and they're creating a masterpiece. And it all starts with Patrick Mahomes, obviously. But the Chiefs, to me, don't look like a team that are wasting their opportunities because they know they only have so many years to do this with Patrick Mahomes. Eventually, one day, Patrick Mahomes will be done. It's not anytime soon, but it will happen. So they know they only have X amount of years to capitalize off of what he is, which is the greatest quarterback that we've ever seen play football. So a couple other things I want to bring up, guys, that I thought was interesting. This week we heard a lot of news. And by the way, if you guys have anything you want to add to what you heard about what we just broke down when it came to the Seahawks and Chiefs game, or any of these games previous, or this game coming up, we're obviously going to talk about this Chiefs-Broncos game coming up. Hit us up on YouTube, man. Join the chat. Let us know what you guys think. Give us your insight. Give us your feedback. We definitely appreciate when you do so because it's all about engagement. It's all about hearing you guys, too. It's not about us just talking at you. We want you to talk back at us, and that way there can be a discussion going on. But I do want to move to something else. We heard about 2 prolific quarterback names this season, and it's in 2 different ways, about being on the move this next year. I know it's not official for either one, but I think it's pretty much official for both guys. We heard the news that Derek Carr has been officially benched by Josh McDaniels and the Raiders for the final 2 games. There are reasons for it. I'm going to get to that in a second as to why they're actually doing this. But I know it's not. I know it's a nail in the coffin, but it really does feel like the nail in the coffin. When you feel like you know something, and then it just really okay, this really is what it is. Yeah. That's what's happened now with Derek Carr and the Raiders. He's 31 years old now, played with them since 2014. I think Derek Carr's a top 12, 15 quarterback in this league. Good, solid guy. He's in the same tier as like Dak Prescott and Kirk Cousins. Good, but never great quarterbacks. Just good, solid guys you can build a good team around.
He's never been in a great spot either.
Yeah, you can win 8 to 11, 12 games with Derek Carr as your quarterback, but you're never going to win a Super Bowl. He's just going to be a good... he's like a pen holder. He basically just keeps everything together for a little bit, and so you find your... if you do find that changing, transcendent type talent like the Chiefs did when they had Alex Smith to Patrick Mahomes. That's what Alex Smith was. Yeah. And so I started to brainstorm, man, because, you have Derek Carr on one side when it comes to his situation, and there's going to be a plethora, a market for Derek Carr. There's going to be tons of teams out there because there's not a bunch of great quarterbacks, so you have to go and get what you can get. Whoever gets Derek Carr is going to have to spend money, though. He's going to demand a market because he's not old, and he's a good quarterback, and so you're going to have to pay him money. So that's why the realistic options I have on my list are based mostly on the primary of money and market. And then there's Tom Brady, which I think we all know. He is not going to come back to Tampa Bay if he ends up coming back to play football next season. This team is depleted of talent. They don't have a good head coach. I know Todd Bowles is a hell of a DC. He's a hell of a defensive coordinator. He is not a good head coach, which is why I was down on this team from the beginning. I was the one guy on this show that had the Buccaneers missing the playoffs. Still do, by the way. I had them at 8-9. That could be their exact record, in fact. It could be even actually worse. But Tom Brady's out. Whether he retires, whether he signs somewhere else because he will be a free agent after this season, it was obvious before the season even started that he wanted out of Tampa Bay. He was trying to collude with the Miami Dolphins to get Sean Payton down there with them to go to the Dolphins and then become a player owner. I still think that's on the board with the Dolphins, but nevertheless, that is 100% going to happen. Tom Brady will not be with the Bucs next season. That is a foregone conclusion. So let's talk about these two guys real quick, Trevor. And I want to talk about Derek Carr first, because I think that's the guy that I think is going to have, like I said, a big market. Yeah. And so I want to talk about it. But see, I brought up the fact that the Raiders are sitting him. It isn't performance-based. Yes, he is leading the league in interceptions, but it's because they have to secure themselves. They have to protect themselves from Derek Carr.
Not only are they sitting him, he's taking time away from the team also.
Right.
You heard about that as well. So
it's a mutual agreement.
He's not even going to be on the sidelines.
I think Derek Carr's done with the Raiders as well. I think Derek Carr truly embraced the Raiders and their fans. I truly believe he wanted to end his career with the Raiders.
He's a Raider fan.
He loves it. He grew up a Raider fan. I really do believe this guy embodied them, but they're a loser franchise, and I think if Derek Carr ever wants to get a chance to really win meaningful games, he's going to have to get out.
Yeah.
And I think this is perfect for him. But the Raiders are protecting themselves from Derek Carr because Derek Carr has a special $40.4 million injury guarantee in his new deal that he just signed with them a couple years or this last offseason. If the 31-year-old is unable to pass a physical before the third day of the 2023 waiver period, the option becomes fully invested. So so this is why McDaniels was non-committal about playing the quarterback to switch in the final two games, because the organization would like to avoid an injury that guarantees that option. Unfortunately, the deadline for the guarantee happens prior to the start of the new league year and before they could trade him. So this is why Mike Florio is expecting, a lot of people are expecting, the Raiders are going to outright release Derek Carr.
Yeah.
They're not going to be able, because if they don't have him off the books right before the league year's over, they have to pay him that $40 million. And if we know anything about the Raiders right now, they are cash thin.
Yeah.
Mark Davis does not have money.
Brokies.
He's broke, dude. Yeah, exactly. Broke Davis should be his real name. So they are going to have to release Derek Carr, which is why I think he's going to sign a lucrative deal with one of these five teams that I have. So starting at number 5, I have the Washington Commanders. Biggest reason why, they are going to have to look at something that's going to, let's say, give them a facelift as a franchise. They have a lot of problems right now. Dan Snyder's in the midst of possibly signing or selling the team over, which means they're going to want to have a nice, shiny face to the puzzle. There is questions whether Ron Rivera will return or not, but let's say he does, and let's say he brings back his defensive coordinator. Who's his defensive coordinator? Jack Del Rio, former coach of Derek Carr, a guy that they worked together very well. In fact, they went to the playoffs. Derek Carr got hurt that season, but they did make the playoffs in 2016 when Jack Del Rio was their head coach. So I could see that being a good situation for him. They got really good weapons out there in Washington, really good defense. They play in an NFC East that's been really good this season, but I don't know if it's going to be like that forever. I think this is that one great season. The Eagles kind of come back down to earth a little bit. The Cowboys come back to earth a little bit. The Giants have some possibilities I'm going to get to in a second that could make them a Super Bowl contender, but I think the Commanders are a team that could really use Derek Carr. I think it's really good for Derek Carr too, because I think they would pay him a lot of money because they don't have a lot of money on their books when it comes to quarterbacks, and they're kind of in purgatory right now when it comes to quarterbacks with Carson Wentz and Taylor Heinicke. He would be an upgrade to both of those guys. Then there's number 4, and this is one of the more intriguing teams I think this offseason, a team I'm going to pay attention to a lot. Carolina Panthers. See, the Carolina Panthers are one of those few teams out there that have a bunch of young, cheap talent on both sides of the ball. They have DJ Moore and what's his name? The running back.
They got Chuba Hubbard.
Chuba Hubbard and
Dante Foreman.
He's 27 or 28 now.
Yeah.
But they still have young, good players, and their offensive line's getting better. Not to mention that defense is extremely talented.
We don't know
cheap.
who their coach is going to be next year either, though.
That is a question. That is a legitimate question. But there are guys out there, like there's rumblings of Frank Reich taking over. There's rumblings of other Dan Quinn might take over.
Frank Reich would be great for Derek Carr.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So there's opportunities here.
I could see that.
Panthers go and get a good, proven head coach, or even like a Kellen Moore if he goes there as a young, unproven coach. Derek Carr would be the perfect quarterback for him to ease himself into his career.
Yeah.
And again, the Panthers could spend money and get Derek Carr, and you would go to the NFC South, which is a very winnable division. You could win the NFC because the Panthers are going to win this division, in my opinion, with Sam Darnold. You put Derek Carr on this team?
Sam Darnold might be their guy, though.
We'll see about that.
Yeah.
The third team is a team that I think can. I almost wanted to take it off and move it up my list a little bit more because this is a very strong possibility. I think this happens. But the other two teams I think are almost a lock. The Indianapolis Colts. Man, Derek Carr in a dome in the AFC South with that defense, with that offensive line, with those two good young weapons, they can add more this offseason with so much money to spend this next offseason.
Yep.
What's his name? Their GM, Chris Ballard, being on the hot seat. Jim Irsay being sick and tired of
Jeff
shit going the way it
Saturday
does.
trying to make his path.
And also the fact the Colts can go and draft a quarterback this year and let them understudy under Derek Carr for a year or two. Then all of a sudden you have a perfect scenario. You have everyone's trying to replicate the Alex Smith, Patrick Mahomes thing. That'd be as close as it gets if they go and get a Bryce Young by chance. They were able to land him in this draft. If something like that was to take
Trade
place.
up for him or something.
Yeah, and that's a 9-10 win team with Derek Carr. That's a good situation for Derek Carr. And like I said, he plays in a dome. You have controlled environment because we know he doesn't play well in the cold.
You got Michael Pittman.
And you play the Texans in a dome. You play the Jaguars in warm Jacksonville, Florida. You have opportunities here to play in warm weather far more times than not.
Yep.
The number 2 team, and this, I'm almost tempted to put them in my top, but I think I still have the top team up there for a reason. I'll explain it. But my number 2 team is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. That makes so much sense.
Yes, it does.
Go, again, to the NFC South.
Warm weather.
You have Mike Evans and Chris Godwin there. You have, I don't know who the running backs will be. The running backs are terrible, but they'll have a healthier offensive line next year because Chris Jensen and those guys will be back.
Yep.
Ryan Jensen will be back. Their left tackle will be Tristan Wirfs will be back.
I will say the running backs have only been really bad because their offensive line has been horrible.
Yeah, sure. And what I'm saying, though, is that
Lenny's a beast,
I think
bro.
they'll rebuild. I think they'll rebuild, too. I don't think that Todd Bowles will be their head coach next year.
Really?
Byron Leftwich will be gone. They do know that. They're talking about him leaving. So there will be influx. And this is a franchise that is going to be losing Tom Brady.
Yep.
They'll need stability. Derek Carr is that kind of quarterback. And also, a couple, 2-3 years removed from the Super Bowl, I think if this would be like the year, let's say Tom Brady would have retired after the Super Bowl or went elsewhere and then Derek Carr replaced him, that's a lot of pressure on Derek Carr.
Yeah.
Now that it'd be 2-3 years removed from that Super Bowl and there's a lot of influx, that's a lot of pressure taken off of Derek Carr. So he'd walk into a situation, but he doesn't have to do that. He can just go to a good team in a very winnable division, still young enough to play at a high level, make some money, because like I said, the Tampa Bay would unload the bag on him and go get him.
No longer in the AFC, he doesn't have to worry about Patrick Mahomes.
That's a lot of pressure taken off of Derek Carr. That's why I have the Bucs at number 2. But my number 1 team, man, and it's perfect. He goes back home. His brother played for the team, the Houston Texans. They have so much money to spend.
Don't curse that man like that.
I'm just saying, think about it. It's perfect because we all know that Derek grew up in Houston.
Yeah, they're
His
taking
brother
a
played
quarterback
there.
with their first pick.
They'll probably take exactly. And if they don't want to play him, then they can go and get a guy like Derek Carr, spend all that money on him, build around him, go and get guys around him to build around a competitive team. The AFC South is very winnable. I know the Jaguars are on the up, but the Titans are on the down. We have no idea what the Colts are doing, especially if they don't land a Derek Carr. Then you're looking at a team overnight can win 7-8 games. And in that division, you can win 7-8 games. You can contend for that division. But the pressure's off because, again, this is a horrific team. You're coming back home. You're making money. Derek Carr has a perfect situation here in the AFC South. So I think that is the number 1 team. I might move around the Bucs and the Texans, but I just felt like with the coming home aspect, no pressure, in a dome, playing against Jacksonville in the AFC South at their place, playing in Indianapolis, a lot of domes, a lot of warm weather. I think that's a place Derek Carr can flourish. Those are my 5 for them. Trevor, who are yours?
Yeah, I just want to comment on the Texans one.
Yeah.
I think that team's completely going to be in a rebuild next year. I think Brandon Cooks is gone because he was wanting out this season, but he signed that big-ass contract last year.
Yeah.
So I think he's going to find a way to be gone. He's going to have no weapons outside of Pierce as the running back.
Right.
That defense is okay. They have a pretty good defensive line.
Yeah.
But I think that team's going to be in a full rebuild. They're going to have no receivers. They're going to have to draft receivers. They're going to have to draft a quarterback. I just feel like he's going to want to go somewhere that's going to become more of a win now because I think this part of his career he's going to want to win.
If they give him $170 million...
I just don't know. I just don't know if he's the money kind of guy.
He just got a massive deal this last time.
That's what I'm saying. He already got that. So I think Derek Carr wants to win.
Okay.
You're right. I really do.
That.
I'm not, and I've been a guy that's questioned his character a lot and like the way he kind of is as a person he is. But I think he really, at this point of his career, wants to win. And I do have as my number 5 team.
Oh, so you do have them on there? Okay.
Well, no, I don't have them on there.
Oh,
I said as my number 5 team, I have the Buccaneers.
Okay.
I don't think it's the most likely situation, but I do think it is a good situation. There's going to be so many good situations. We can even throw Jimmy G into the mix of these quarterbacks and where as far as landing spots go. Even though I do think Jimmy G is going to be a Jet, I think that's a perfect marriage there. But I think the Buccaneers make a lot of sense. He's already got good weapons there. Whether Julio Jones remains a Buck next year or not, he's still got Chris Godwin, and he's got another elite field stretcher in Mike Evans. I do think Rachaad White, their rookie running back, has been a good addition. If they can get that offensive line together and that defense can kind of get a little more coagulated and bring another couple veterans in, I think that's still a good unit. That's a great winning situation for him in the NFC in another terrible division, right? So I think that's a great spot for him just to go maybe win, change a location, scenery, go to the other side, go to the NFC. I think might be a good refreshing for him. And Florida is not a bad place to go. Playing in some nice warm weather year round is pretty nice for him. So Buccaneers will be my 5th on the list. I have the Commanders next. I think that's another great. Playing for Ron Rivera, a guy that is critical of his players, but a guy I think that Derek Carr would relate to well. I think he's he appreciates honest coaches, and I think that's something he's never really had in Oakland and Vegas. He's dealt with a lot of different characters in the coaching position there. I will say that's one thing I do give Derek Carr credit on is trying to make the best of the situation he's been in. He's never really had a great situation. He's gone through so many OCs, so many head coaches, so many defensive coordinators, so many different faces through those locker rooms, which was like the curse of Alex Smith. Until he found, his best years with consistency with Andy Reid. Go figure. When you have consistency at the head coaching position and offensive coordinators, that tends to find success whether you're a great quarterback or not. That's huge for you. So I will give him that credit. And I think if he goes, to a team with a solid, maybe the top defense in the league next year, they have a very good chance if Chase Young comes back and he is who he is. Yeah. That defense is very good. And if they get that secondary a little bit better, because we all know that defensive line is tops. So I think that's a good spot for him. He's got McLaurin. He's got, Samuels. Has got 2 really good running backs there. That's a great spot to go win some games in a division. Obviously, that is also very winnable. So I like the Commanders as well. I'm gonna throw a little one in here that might not be as obvious, but I think the Steelers are a situation here where I don't know if they're fully bought into their young quarterback. And they've shown that throughout the year so far. They've benched him, I think, 2 or 3 times. He's been out with some concussions. He's got small hands. I don't know. There's a lot of things going on with Kenny Pickett. I don't know if I know he's the hometown kid. It's a good story. It's a warming story with the Steelers. I don't know though, man. I don't know. I don't know if they don't bring in another veteran. Derek Carr might not be the guy. It could be somebody else. It might not happen at all. They could fully lean into Kenny Pickett next year. But I think that's still a very good team. And I know it's cold weather come the later months of the year, so that might not be ideal for him. But I think it's a good situation. Depending on what say Baltimore moves on from Lamar, that division's wide open. I think there's. I know they got Joe Burrow there. I know that's another thing as well. But I think whatever happens with the Browns, that can be a very tough division to win in. But at the same time, if they build around Derek Carr and you give him a chance to go in there, they got weapons offensively. They got Deontay Johnson. You got Pickens, obviously, is this absolute stud. I think he's going to blow up eventually in these next coming years, depending on who's throwing him the ball. But I love that guy. They got Najee Harris, who's a stud running back. Given the chances with that O-line. That's just kind of an odd one I just kind of wanted to throw out there. That's I think a sneaky, dark horse kind of team that could be looking for a quarterback. Because I think they want to win. They want to compete. They don't want to
keep Mike Tomlin.
Well, and they don't want Joe. And they don't want. Depending on what happens with Lamar, if Lamar's still there, it still very much could be Lamar's division as well. Because I'm not going to doubt that man. That's a bad man right there when healthy. But if Joe Burrow, starts to take over this division, and that very well could happen as well. That guy's great. That guy's great, man. I know. If they want to compete, they don't want to be sunned. And if there's anything I know about Mike Tomlin, man, that guy does not want to be sunned. He does not want to be, the team looking up at the other team. He's going to want to compete in that division. I'm not saying Derek Carr is going to go be the guy that can do that, but I think Derek Carr is a guy that can deliver some good balls downfield. He's got a great deep ball. He's a very accurate thrower for the most part. He does have the tendency to throw some bad turnovers, but Kenny Pickett, it just hasn't really been that great, man. I've watched a lot of Steelers football this year, and I think if any Steelers fans are watching, then they would tend to agree. They like to rally around him, but he just hasn't been very good. Mitchell Trubisky has come in there and kind of lit a fire into that team a couple times, and that's not what you want to see. You don't want Mitch coming in there and having the guys rally around him rather than the quarterback that you drafted. And I don't think there's too much investment in Kenny Pickett yet. I don't think I've seen that from the Steelers yet. And that defense is ready to go. I think they want to compete. They might have to make a change of quarterback. And that's the tough decisions that I expect Mike Tomlin to make, whether he does it or not. So I think the Steelers are kind of a dark horse team. Colts are my second on the list. I think the Colts is the perfect spot, if I'm being honest. I have them second because I think there's another team that I think is very likely. But I love the Colts situation. I mean, I know they've been having the quarterback carousel lately, the coaching and quarterback carousel. This been. I don't know if this Jeff Saturday thing is going to work out. I really don't. It's probably not. They're probably going to try to find some. I think Sean Payton could be an option there as well. I mean, I don't know.
Just wait.
Yeah, that's definitely something that can happen. So, it's a great spot for him. That's a win ready. That's a team ready to win right now. That's a great defense ready to win. It's a dome, like you alluded to, like you said. You got Michael Pittman, you got Alec Pierce, you got other guys. You know, they got a lot of young tight ends they have in that system that he likes to throw to tight ends. You know, it's like this. Jonathan Taylor is an absolute stud running back. The offensive line is good when healthy, very good when healthy. So I think that is probably the best, I think most likely spot for Derek Carr, and it makes all the sense. You know, they've gone through the Carson Wentz's, the Matt Ryans, obviously, and the Phillip Rivers, who actually did really well in that offense. So I think that's the best opportunity for him to go win. So. Granted, he'd stay in the AFC, so he would, the chances of winning the postseason is kind of still, grim, if I'm being honest, because the AFC is just so loaded. But still, for him to go win, maybe have like a 12-win season with that defense and that that situation there, I think in the dome, controlled climate all year round is nice for him, ideal for him to go win, 10 plus, 11 plus games. Is a good spot. Saints are my number one team. I think Chris Olave is an absolute stud. I think Chris Olave has a chance to be a star in this league. He's already shown glimpses of it this year with the rotation of quarterbacks throwing him the ball this year. Andy Dalton's had moments, but the Saints have just kind of been the fact they've won as many games this year as they have is pretty surprising. But I think that is a team that's going to have some good draft picks this year. They might grab a couple other defensive players. If they get that defense right. They've been without a couple of defensive players in and out this year. So I think if they get that defense right, that offensive line right, you still got Alvin Kamara. You got Chris Olave, like I said. Michael Thomas will be back next year, most likely.
Maybe.
I'm just saying, I think that's a very good, another dome team. He's just Derek Carr's got to stay away from the hoodoo and the voodoo out there. Fend off the evil spirits and so forth. But listen, man, I think the two dome teams make a lot of sense for him. I get to see Derek Carr in that Saints uniform. I get to see that being a thing as well. I do think the best spot is Indianapolis. I do think that, but I do think a very realistic opportunity is in New Orleans. So those are my 5 teams.
The only thing because I very much teetered with the Saints for both Derek Carr and Brady. The problem with the Saints, man, is that they have literally an historically bad cap situation.
Yep.
So if winning is a goal for Derek Carr, I don't think the Saints are an option because they aren't going to be able to go and get the players needed to win because this team's not good enough as currently constructed.
That division, though.
Sure.
If he goes there,
but the problem is if he goes there, he's going to have to accept he's going to take a massive discount to go there. There's other teams are going to offer him probably $30 million a year.
Possibly.
You know what I mean? Like I could see that
cap
happen.
is funny money, though, man.
I get it. I'm just saying though that the Saints are in it. I agree. Like if all things were just kind of thrown to the side, if we said the Saints have good cap structure, I'd say they're at the top of both these lists for both these quarterbacks.
Yeah.
Because there's also a head coach in waiting that could potentially go back to New Orleans if the cap situation was better. That's the thing that I think they holds up everything for both these quarterbacks, or for any quarterback for that matter.
Yeah.
Which is why it leads me to my Tom Brady list. This is the one that I think is the most interesting because Derek Carr, I think, could sign with 8 to 10 teams in this league. I think there's like 8 teams right now that would sign Derek Carr.
Jimmy G, guys like that.
There are teams out there desperate enough to go and get a guy like that. Even like the Giants can go out and swing for Derek Carr and try to get him over Daniel Jones.
That'd be a good team too.
See, there's a lot of teams, like I said, those aren't on my list. There's other teams that can go and get him.
Yeah.
Tom Brady's situation is far more delicate for multiple reasons.
Limited.
He'll be 46 years old by the beginning of next season.
Yeah.
Which is obviously something you have to pay attention to because no matter how great Tom has been, he is going to be a year older and he's already showing signs of slowing down. But he's still good enough to be a quarterback in this league, which I have said if he wants to keep playing, you're good enough still. But there's also only, I think, 5 teams at most that fit what Tom Brady's looking for. Obviously, Tom's going to demand a market, which means he's going to probably get paid. But there's only a few teams I think even give him a chance to win next season. If you put Tom Brady on X team, do they win? That's what you had to look at. And this was the toughest one for me. Derek Carr's, I got it down in like 20, 30 minutes.
Yeah.
When it came to Tom's, I sat there for 2 days and was trying to figure out my list. because it was so hard, and I had to like move these teams around because I had to consider a lot of different cap structures, team future building, all this other stuff, and I'm like, okay, these are my 5, but that's why I put current top 5 because it'll change because we're not even at the off season yet.
Right.
But I want to start with my number 5, Tennessee Titans. Here's the reason why. There's the painted scenario of Mike Vrabel and him teaming up because we did hear that he was interested in the Titans 3 years ago when he was leaving the Patriots. They have a very strong defense.
Yeah.
Derrick Henry was in his prime at the time. Tannehill's not what Tom Brady is. They had good receiving options. They had A.J. Brown at that time. And then 3 years later, like if this was 3 years later now, I would have Titans at the top of my list because I think that's a perfect team for Tom Brady. Here's a couple of the problems why they only scrape at the bottom of my 5. They're always injured. This is the second straight year now they've led in IR players on IR. It's record-setting, by the way.
Yeah.
I think Mike Vrabel coaches this team great, but he also coaches them really hard, and I think that's the reason why this team's breaking down as the seasons progress. They don't have a lot of good receiving options. That could change in the draft. This team's drafted really well, and they could end up getting another A.J. Brown. Then Treylon Burks might take that step and become that guy next season.
I like that kid a lot.
Derrick Henry will be 30 next year, and he's still been great this season, but their offensive line's been really banged up, and that causes some uncertainty. But I'm picturing Tom Brady on this team and minusing out Malik Willis, minusing out Ryan Tannehill this season. This team would win 10, 11 games this year with Tom Brady because they're going to win 8 or 9 without him.
I don't know. Dobbs looked pretty good the other night.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
I'm just
this team, with all the injuries, with all those problems, Mike Vrabel still got this team damn near to a winning record this season.
He's that great of a coach.
So you put Tom Brady on this team who's motivated, trying to win in a very winnable division. That team wins 10 games with Tom Brady. So that's why I have them at least on the list because I think they would contend for the division, which would put them in the playoffs in a home game. The outdoors thing kind of makes me nervous because I don't think Tom wants to go play in the cold, which is why Tampa Bay made so much sense for him. You're playing in the NFC, got a tons of talent, and you're playing in warm weather. But Tom can play in cold, which is why I think they're still on the list. They're at the bottom, but they're still on the list. My number 4 team, and you got to work with me here, Trevor, because this is a scenario that I'm going deep into this. I'm going down the rabbit hole. We heard last season that Tom Brady was trying to go to Miami, and who was he having attached to him as his coach? Sean Payton. Mm-hmm. He wanted Sean Payton to be his coach, and I think Sean Payton wants to coach Tom Brady. I think it's one of those like fantasy things where you get an opportunity to bring those masterminds together because you saw what he did with Drew Brees.
He's going to get a year out of him. He's going to try to make a Super Bowl run.
I get it, which is why I think this is a go for broke mode. But also, these other teams that Sean Payton could go to while bringing Tom Brady in can also have contingency plans in place and get his rookie quarterback, and then he can build off that guy. Which is why my number 4 team is the Indianapolis Colts.
Yeah.
Staying in the AFC South, but this time you're in a dome with a better overall defense, a healthier defense.
It's the best roster you can go
better
to.
home field advantage.
Yeah.
I think Sean Payton's a better coach than Mike Vrabel. I think Mike Vrabel's a hell of a coach. I think he's top 5-10 in the league. But Sean Payton is an elite head coach when he coaches.
100%.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that Tom Brady with Sean Payton in Indianapolis, that is a contender for the AFC. I'm not saying they'd be my favorite. They wouldn't be. But that's a 12-win team with Sean Payton running things. You get more talent around Tom Brady on the offensive side. That defense is young and cheap right now. They have a couple guys that are expensive. But other than that, this team would win double digits with Sean Payton leading the way and Tom Brady as their quarterback for 1 year. That is why they're my number 4. The number 3 team, I'm not a Tom Brady fan at all, but I kind of want to see this one happen. Go to the New York Jets. My God, dude, think about this. That defense is elite. Top 5 at worst. Robert Saleh is an incredible defensive mind.
Got a lot of offense there, too.
When did Tom Brady have his most success? With a defensive-minded head coach in New England, always had an elite defense.
Talk about a big market. I mean,
my God. And exactly. Dude, Tom Brady's lived.
Tickets they would sell, bro?
Tom Brady's had a house in New York for 20 years.
Imagine Tom Brady Jets jerseys.
His oldest son lives in New York. He does like screenplays, acting, and all that stuff, like Broadway shows and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It would be perfect for Tom from a market standpoint, and you get to go back to the AFC East, which is an opportunity to do what to Bill Belichick. Beat his ass multiple times. And Patriots are down bad right now, man.
Yeah.
They're not going to make the playoffs. I don't think they're going to beat the Dolphins this week. We can talk about that later. But they're down bad talent-wise. Bill Belichick looks outdated. He looks outclassed. You put Tom Brady on this elite defense with Garrett Wilson on the offensive side, with Breece Hall coming back. You add a couple more pieces. Corey Davis is there. Good offensive line.
Tyler Conklin is a tight end.
Dude, that's a 12-13 win team right there. Like they're going to win 8-9 games this season. And they've had Zach Wilson for half the season as their quarterback. They had Mike White. Love him. Mike White's fun. He's a backup quarterback. You know what I mean? Joe Flacco's played a couple games this year. You put Tom Brady, it's a massive upgrade, even at 46 years old. With this team, oh my God, that's a 12-win team right there, man. So the Jets, that's kind of the team I'm kind of rooting, like low-key rooting for, because I think that would be an awesome matchup.
Yeah.
But I do believe ultimately that Tom Brady's going to stay in the NFC, which is why my top 2 teams are in the NFC. My number 2, again, the team that I'm going to be watching so close this offseason, because I think, like you said, Trevor, they have a head coach job vacant next year. I know Steve Wilkes has done a good job, but the Panthers are looking for a new coach. You know they would give Sean Payton all the power in the world in Carolina. He would be able to run that team however he wants to. You would be able to build, because like I said, they'll have friendly cap space. They'll be jumping up to $60, $70 million in the offseason. They already have young talent across the board on both sides of the ball. That's a much better team than their record indicates. They just have not had good quarterback play. But they beat the crap out of the Buccaneers this year with P.J. Walker, and again, with a influx head coaching position. You put Sean Payton in there, he implements his offense with Tom Brady behind that good offensive line, that run game with DJ Moore, and then that defense with Brian Burns and those fellas. That team runs away with that division. They run away with the NFC South. They get one of the top seeds in the NFC, and they get themselves a chance to get back to the Super Bowl. I think the Panthers are such an interesting thing. And again, this is with Sean Payton coming with, because I think Tom Brady and Sean Payton do want to work together. Yeah. So that's the scenario I'm building. Not just that Tom Brady just goes to the Panthers. It has to be a combo play. Because also, we forget, you know who would be a defensive coordinator for the Panthers if Sean Payton goes there? Vic Fangio. Vic Fangio is one of the best defensive minds in the world. You get him with that Panthers defense, that becomes the best defense in football. So a lot of beautiful things. You get to stay in the NFC South, dominate there, stay on the NFC side, avoid the AFC, and you get to go over there with Sean Payton. I think that's a beautiful one. But my number 1 is the New York Giants. It is a perfect situation for Tom Brady. Again, you stay in New York, you stay in the NFC. He also gets to go play with Brian Daboll. You know how long Brian Daboll and Tom Brady used to work together, Trevor? They worked together for 10 years in New England. Brian Daboll was a positions coach multiple times and an offensive coordinator as well. They worked a decade together in New England, had a lot of success together. Brian Daboll has proven himself as a legitimate head coach in this league, doing what he's done with Daniel Jones, getting this team back into playoff contention, and for the first time since even back when Eli Manning was still playing, they weren't in playoff contention. It's been years, and the Giants are back into that because of Brian Daboll. Not only that, Trevor, they're gonna have over $100 million to spend this next offseason. They have to
get some offensive weapons, man.
Oh, and they will. I think they're gonna go out and spend.
Don't be surprised if Devontae Adams comes available.
There's going to be a lot of fun things going on, man. I'm telling you. I think Devontae Adams is going to get out of Las Vegas.
There's going to be a massive sale in Vegas.
The market is incredible. It's the best market in the world. You also have a division that I think, again, the Eagles are awesome and they're going to stay good, but I don't think they're going to be 14-3, 15-2 good for the next foreseeable future. Cowboys know how this goes with them. It's the same story each and every time. They look good and they shit the bed in the playoffs if they even make it. And then obviously we know the Commanders are just a shit stain right now. So the Giants, man, you add Tom Brady to a team with Brian Daboll and what he's been able to do. That defense is getting young and better every single week.
Well, even if Saquon goes elsewhere, Josh Jacobs immediately becomes available as well. That could be
they got so much money to spend.
But I think Saquon would stay if he knew Tom Brady was coming to town.
I think the Giants and the Panthers are the two best spots for, because again, you stay in the NFC side of things. You got to make. I guarantee the Giants would give him 1-2 year deal worth $100 million. They would easily do it, and they can spend it and they can get it. I think the Giants are the best spot for Tom Brady. What is your list, Trevor?
Okay, so my fifth one on the list, I really don't even believe in most of these, if I'm being honest. I think there's only like 2 or 3 that are realistic.
Exactly.
If he doesn't retire, which I don't think he's going to retire, but I think he's going to play 1-2 years more max. I threw the Saints in there as my fifth one because just for giggles, because the team that's owned his ass for so long and always gives him the hardest of times. Yeah. I just felt like it would be hilarious. In my mind, I was thinking if he goes to the Saints and they bring back Coach Sean Payton. And they bring in his whole crew or whatever, and he ends up winning, having a really good year with the Saints. Would just be kind of poetic in a way. So I just threw them in as my fifth option, kind of just a shit against the wall kind of thing. I do have the Giants as my fourth.
Okay.
I think the Giants is a good situation. I know some of these, I just don't think it's really realistic. Honestly, I don't think it's going to happen.
No, you don't think the Giants are realistic?
I just don't, man. Wow. I don't see him trying to go to a team that's still trying to build something. And I love Daboll, but I don't know.
They could be a 10-win team.
They could. But I don't know, man. I just think he's going to be extremely picky on what he does, and I think a lot of things have to. I think a lot of these teams right now it's tough to predict this because wherever Tom Brady decides to go, just like when he went to Tampa. a lot of things had to change there first. They had to change that roster. They had to get a defensive-minded coach, or at least a coach that was.
And what team has more opportunity to do that this offseason?
Sure.
Yeah.
No. They have money. They could definitely it definitely lines up that way. But I don't know. I just don't think it's as realistic as we want to say it is. But I think it is a good spot if he does end up going there. I think in reality, I think that is something that could happen. The Dolphins are my third. I think the Dolphins. I think Tua is in risk of ending his career with all these concussions.
As sad as it is, yeah.
Early, he's had 3
years old, man.
this year.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? In
Within
one
like a
year.
month.
And when we're sitting here talking about Matthew Stafford having his 2 this year. Possibly is he going to retire? Great. I know he's much more battle tested and scarred and bruised with his longer career and his age and everything. But Tua's had nothing but injuries in his career. In his entire football career dating back to college, massive hip injuries. I even seen, shout out Marty McDonald, talking about how Tua, when Tua falls, I see him talking about it on Facebook, he tries to, instead of protecting his head, when he falls, he's trying to protect his hip first. So he falls awkwardly and always is landing a massive whiplash on his head. That's true. I've watched it. It is true. He lands funny when he falls. So I don't know, man. I think his future is definitely in question. I don't even know if he's going to play this postseason. We don't know. We don't know what's going to go on with Tua, and them losing 4 straight has been a bad look for him. All the MVP talk to him early on the year when everything was going right, but when things go bad, it's bad.
Yep. He's
having a hard time trying to figure it out and get out of it, and he's losing he just lost to a Packers team that really shouldn't have won that game, for being honest with the talent differential there in between those two teams. Yeah, it's been a bad look. So I think, and that would be a smooth transition for Tom, man. He would, like I told you off air, like that's a situation where Tom wouldn't even have to sell his house in Tampa. That's a few hours away. He can keep that house and go get a nice condo in Miami or something. And who wouldn't want to be in Miami?
That.
Yeah, who wouldn't want to be in Miami too? I mean, we all know
Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle.
Well, and exactly, and that defense is going to get better. I know that secondary has been bad this year, but they did get Bradley Chubb. They've added some guys. I think that's a defense that can get way better next year with another offseason. And McDaniels is another young, bright, aspiring mind offensively.
But can I just stop right there? I don't want to mess up your flow here. That was the reason why I didn't have them on my list, because when he was originally going to go to Miami, it was with a coach that I think he trusted and has been more established in this league. Like Mike McDaniels, he's looked good right now, but we don't really know yet.
But we don't know Daboll yet either.
But Daboll's been in the league for a very long time. He's worked with Tom for 10 years. So that's what I'm saying. Like, I think that the Miami thing still sounds good, but there's such a stench around it because of how dirty that all was. And then Mike McDaniel being the head coach, and they're not moving off of Mike McDaniel. I wonder if there'd be a little bit of a conflict because Mike McDaniel wants to establish his team, his offense. He doesn't run the same style of offense as Tom Brady. That's why I kind of pushed away. I agree with you. I think there is a chance it still happens just because of the intrigue, the team being built the way it is.
The offensive weapons he have, man.
I feel like the biggest reason why Tom wanted to go there were for 2 reasons: Sean Payton and the player owner situation. I don't think it's going to be there anymore.
Sure, I mean, like I said, I don't think these are actually going to happen. Most of these, my top 2 are the most realistic ones. I think that'll be the best situations for him. And my next one would be the Jets. I think him with Saleh, and I just think that would be a great marriage. I think it's great for Jimmy G too, who is obviously him and Tom Brady have similar skill sets. They're very good at managing games. Obviously, Jimmy G being the far lesser of Tom Brady. Obviously, I think Jimmy G's trash, if I'm being honest, as an individual talent. But in that system, with a good defense, with a young aspiring star receiver and Garrett Wilson, they have a lot of other really good. They got they get young running backs that can do. Breece Hall being an absolute stud. It was ridiculous.
Hopefully
this year.
He heals correctly.
And he's a perfect kind of running back for Tom Brady because he's a very good pass catcher. He's very good in the open field. You get him in space with the ball, being passed to him. So guys like that defense is absolutely stacked. Could be easily a top 3 defense next year. They were top 5 pretty much all year this year for the most part. Playing in New York or New Jersey, that New York market would be huge for Tom. With the guy he is, with his own brand and things like that, would just be that much more. The chaos that would be Tom Brady going to the Jets would just be wild. Just with his story and his career and owning that team and stuff like that is just would be cool to see. So that is a great win now spot for Tom, I think, and they still got a lot of money as well. They got a lot of young contracts, you know what I mean? So and a well coached team, I think Saleh would. I think that would be a great marriage with those two guys together. A coach that knows what he wants, a quarterback that knows what he wants and knows who he is, a coach that knows who he is. It's just a lot of confidence will come out of that locker room.
Let me stop you again there because I'm glad we agree on this one. The biggest reason also is there's a lot of uncertainty in the AFC East.
Yeah.
Like, we just assume the Bills are going to be great forever. They got a lot of aging
There's some
veterans.
bad money. There's some bad money there, too.
Jordan Poyer will be 32 next year.
Yeah.
Rousseau will be 30, I think 30 or 31. Then they have Von Miller, who'll be 34, who won't probably play all of next season.
We don't know if Trey Wyatt's going to be the same.
Exactly. He hasn't been.
Yeah.
Like, Mitch Morse, what's going to happen with his future? Like, there's a lot. So the Bills
Josh
might
Allen's
take a down
turning back
year.
into his turnover machine ways.
Tom Brady goes in there, he might take over the AFC East again, but in a different jersey.
Oh, if Tom Brady goes to the Jets, I'd put money on them winning that division.
Saying, man,
for sure.
I'm saying
They're a quarterback away from because they've already beat them once. You know, what I mean, with Zach Wilson.
And that second game, they could have won again.
Right.
Mike White just kept getting injured, and there was opportunities there.
Yeah, and what a great position for Mike White too. If Tom Brady goes in there for 1 or 2 years, then maybe he's the next guy up after Tom leaves. That'd be a great learning thing from him. But yeah, I think that's a great spot, and I think the Colts are the best spot. I think the Colts are the best spot for any free agent quarterback. I mean, I think it is what it is. Like, you're playing in a dome. You got a roster that's ready to go.
Is that with Sean Payton or without, or doesn't matter?
It would have to be with Sean Payton.
I was gonna say.
I don't believe in Jeff Saturday. I think it's all falling apart.
No.
I think we're seeing it for what it is. I mean, it was a cute little signing. I thought it was an absolute joke when it happened. I didn't think it was real. I thought it was some fake thing when I first saw it happen. No offense to Jeff Saturday, but it's just he doesn't have the credentials, and it's an unfair thing. Yeah. It's just a friend doing a friend a favor is what it felt like, and that was really frustrating as professionals amongst the league. I'm sure that was extremely offensive. But yeah, it would have to be another coach obviously coming in there. He's not going to go play for Jeff Saturday. Sean Payton, I think it'd be a great spot for Sean Payton. I mean, you got Michael Pittman, like I said, Alec Pierce, and Granson, young tight end that they drafted.
Jonathan Taylor healthy again.
Yes, an offensive line might be the best in the league when healthy.
Yeah.
Defensive line that's extremely aggressive and gets after the quarterback really well. Yeah, I mean, playing in a dome all year, controlled climate all year. I mean, it's an ideal spot for an aging guy, an all-time great quarterback to go in there and be comfortable. Yeah, so
the market's kind of.
Yeah, I don't think. I know the market is a fun thing. I even mentioned that with the Jets. That makes sense, but I don't even think that matters that much for Tom Brady anymore. He's already the most marketable football player of all time.
Yeah.
Like, it's Tom fucking Brady.
I also have to consider the fact of like the AFC NFC playoff structure. Like, I think he would prefer to stay in the NFC
for sure.
So I think
to
if it's
win,
in the AFC, it's got to be perfect. Like you said, Colts, Jets are like the only like two teams that I think for certain would like give him what he needs.
Well, and remember you had the Colts winning the AFC this year. I'll throw that out there again just for fun.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that was with Matt Ryan. Listen, I mean, Tom Brady and if Sean Payton and Tom Brady come into town, I mean, that's a definite threat to everybody in the AFC. As old as Tom Brady is, he's a guy that goes out there and just gets it done and steers, guides the ship and lets the rest of that roster do what they do best. And that's a ready now team. So, yeah, I mean, you get those two guys together in Indy, that would be, I think that would be the best spot for him to go and succeed.
That's our list right now when it comes to Derek Carr, Tom Brady. I'm sure they're subject to change because we don't know what these teams are going to do this offseason. There are going to be a lot of different movements.
Somebody's going to get Jimmy G, too. That's going to happen.
Yeah,
one of these teams is going to grab him.
Regret signing him because the guy can't stay healthy to save his life.
Right.
That's why the Jets will not go for Jimmy G because he's unreliable. And again,
Probably be the Giants.
I think if I'm Derek Carr, I think the best bet for him is to go to a smaller market. Not a small market, but a market that's not like New York that has all these expectations, pressure, the media being the way it is. Because I don't think he's the kind of guy that can handle that. I think he needs to go to more of a mild market.
Yeah, we don't need him crying again.
Go make money, maybe get a chance to win, but go out there and just play your game and do what you do. I just don't think New York, LA, any of those kinds of places would be good for a Derek Carr. I think Tom Brady can handle any market.
Yeah.
I think actually he might get bored though.
Shit, if he can handle what he's doing through this year, I mean,
that's what I'm saying. So yeah, I definitely think that's where it is. Subject to change. I'm sure we'll have this discussion many more times over the next 6-7 months.
Yeah.
But that's where we're at right now. Let us know on our YouTube channel where you guys think Tom Brady and Derek Carr would ultimately land. I know we had some other people that have talked about it, but let us know what you guys think in the chat and give us your guys' list as well. But we need to move to the Week 17 NFL picks. We do this each and every week where we give you guys a couple picks that we think are going to go down the way that we see them going down when it comes to certain matchups. I think it's been an incredibly insightful season about how unpredictable things have been in the NFL. Like, we always know this is such a parity-driven league. Every year there's a team that comes out of nowhere. There's always a surprise, big upset almost every single week. It's been fun to call these games and predict these games, and I think this is going to be one of those weeks, once again, where so much is riding on these matchups this week and next week, quite frankly, and I can't wait to get to them because I think there's going to be some surprises, if you will. Well, maybe not some surprises, but it might, at the end of the season, you look back and go, damn, that team really did that, or damn, that team didn't do that. That's unbelievable. I want to start with the Dolphins visiting the Patriots.
Yeah, man.
So we know the news. Trevor already broke it down. Tua Tagovailoa will not play. I think if the Dolphins are smart, they don't play him for the rest of the season, and then he needs to really decide what his future is going to look like for in the NFL, because
personal health.
I don't know, man. It's very worrisome.
Yeah.
So the Dolphins are going to miss him to some degree, but Teddy Bridgewater is a very capable quarterback. And, in fact, even though the Dolphins have lost their starting quarterback, I think they still have the better quarterback in this matchup, because Mac Jones is terrible. Dude has 9 touchdowns in 12 games and has 8 interceptions to 9 touchdowns. Dude is not good. Dude hasn't been good. And I don't believe in this Patriots offense whatsoever. They're one of the worst offenses in the NFL. Their defense is really good. I think they're 5th in the league. But the Patriots have also capitalized on a very weak schedule this season in its totality. They've really capitalized on some bad offenses, and we've seen some good offenses really put it on this defense. So I know it's at home, and I know the Patriots have a lot to play for, because if they lose this game, they're eliminated from the playoffs. But I'm sticking with the Dolphins in this matchup. The Patriots are 2.5-point favorites. The over-under is 41. I know it might be a closer game than we're expecting. If Tua was playing, they were feeling good. I think the Dolphins would win pretty comfortably. But with Teddy Bridgewater and these weapons, and Teddy knowing what to do and how to get it done, I have all the faith in the world the Dolphins are going to score just enough. I'm not saying they're going to come in here and drop 31, 38, anything like that. Yeah. But I think if they get to 20, I think if they get to 23, they're going to win this game by a touchdown. I don't believe in this Patriots offense. I know that Ramondre Stevenson is a good running back, but he has like 3 fumbles in his last 2 games.
Which is not like him, though.
It's not like him, but you know how trends go. A lot of times when guys get in those trends, it continues.
I think Damian Harris will be back playing, too, so they'll have that 1-2 punch back.
And like you said, the Dolphins' defense has not been good, but I think they can play better. And I think this is a game where the Dolphins' defense plays good. I think they're going to make Mac Jones' day really long, and in fact, I think they're going to keep the Patriots under 14 points. So I think the Dolphins score just enough. I think they score 21, 24 points, something in that region. Nothing great, but I think Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle will be the deciding factors this game. I think Mostert's going to get just enough in the run game, and I think they win this game. I'll go ahead and say 21-13, something like that, and I think they get out with a victory and keep their playoff hopes alive. What do you think, Trev?
Listen, man. When I smell blood in the water of a team that's crumbling, I can't help myself but feast on them. I'm picking the Patriots in this game because I just think that the Miami Dolphins are just trending in the worst direction possible. They are tumbling. They're just spiraling down, man. This team, I mean, watching that Packers game, granted, I know that was a competitive game, but it just wasn't the same team. It was not. There was no electricity. There wasn't. I mean, I know Jalen Waddle had his plays there, but I just wasn't seeing the delivery and the confidence in McDaniels as a coach, and a lot of the things just were kind of. And defensively, they just. Oh man, they're lifeless a lot of times, and that secondary has got some studs. And Bradley Chubb has yet to really establish himself in that defense yet.
Perfect offense.
This could be
yes. Perfect offense to
100%. That could definitely happen. I think this is going to be an ugly game. I think it's going to be a dogfight. I think it will be close and lower scoring. But I just think. I think the Patriots do enough here. I'm taking your same logic, but flipping it. I think the Patriots will do just enough to win this one in a low-scoring environment that favors the Patriots in that kind of game. So I think the Dolphins thrive in more of a faster pace environment. The Patriots tend to slow their opponents down. Outside of that random Bears game where they just got slaughtered, they tend to slow and take your best weapon away. Granted, you're never really going to take Tyreek Hill or Jalen Waddle away. That's a tough thing to do, but I don't have that much faith in Teddy Bridgewater, if I'm being honest. Even when his fill-in spots, he was okay, but it just wasn't clicking, honestly. So and he's not safe to exit this game healthy either. He's a guy that continually gets banged up in games and has had his concussions this year, or maybe not, whatever that whole situation was. But he's a guy that gets banged up too, and I think I have more faith in Belichick and that defense getting this game done. This is not about Mac Jones in any way. He'll pull some nice throws out of his ass every once in a while, but Jacoby Myers could be a test for that secondary. I think he's a good receiver. But yeah, I think if they get that running game going, which I believe they will, that defense of the Miami just hasn't not really been able to stop anybody. The Packers ran all over them and had their way with them for the most part. So I think if they can get that running game going and Judon can get after Teddy Bridgewater, which is likely, it's gonna be a long day for that Dolphins team. So I think I'm gonna take if I'm a betting guy, I would say that the spread works for me. That -2 works for me. I'll take the Patriots -2 on that one, man.
And then we have the Panthers visiting the Buccaneers. This is a massive game because if the Buccaneers win this one, the Buccaneers win the division, which means they can essentially rest their starters in Week 18 because they can't move up or down in the standings in the NFC side of things, which they will 100% rest if they do win this game. Whereas the Panthers, they win this game and then win in Week 18. They win the division no matter what the Buccaneers do in these in Week 18.
It's a big game, man.
Big game for both teams. It's in Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay is favored by 4. The over-under is 40.5, which means that they're not expecting either one of these offenses to get off. I think it's disrespectful to the Panthers that the Bucs are 4-point favorites here.
I agree.
I think it's absolute disrespect.
Especially
not just
as of
because
late. They've been playing good.
Yeah, not just because the Buccaneers have been a team that have only scored over 23 points once this season, and it was 3 months ago against the Chiefs in garbage time. Not only is it that, but we've seen these two teams play against each other, and the Panthers absolutely destroyed the Buccaneers.
Yeah.
They held the Bucs to 3 points. Now, that's not saying much, again, because the Bucs offense isn't good. But Tom Brady threw the ball 49 times in that game and had 0 touchdowns. They had, I think, 5 red zone trips and came up with 3 points. And I know that the Panthers are struggling with some defensive injuries. I think J.C. Horn might miss this game. So I know that's going to probably be a big loss because he's actually a great player.
Yep.
I know that's going to be something. But if I'm looking at it from a confidence standpoint, the Panthers come into this game winning 3 of their last 4. Knowing they have a golden opportunity here to make the playoffs when everybody just wrote them off for dead and Matt Rule got fired, a changing carousel of quarterbacks, Sam Darnold's finally kind of making his groove, making it known. They just put up over 320 rushing yards against the Lions, who, again, not a really good defense, but have been playing much better over the last 6-7 weeks. Yeah. They were the worst defense in the league. My point, though, is the Lions had a lot to play for in that game, and the freaking Panthers put up 37 points on them. So this Panthers team is the better team between these two, in my opinion. I don't think Sam Darnold's better than Tom Brady, but I don't think that's going to matter. Because you know who wasn't better than Tom Brady? P.J. Walker, who outplayed Tom Brady by a significant margin in that last matchup. I'm picking the Panthers in this game, and I'm picking them comfortably, and I have them covering the 4 points. Because this is a terrible matchup. If we know anything about Tom Brady, especially of the last few years, against certain teams, when they have his number, they just simply have his number. And unless something dramatic happens where Sam Darnold just craps the bed, throws 3 picks, something like that could happen. I'm not banking on it because I think the Panthers are going to come into this game pissed off. They feel disrespected about this point line, this margin. And I think they know how important this game is for them and how everybody wrote them off, and teams like that seem to feed off those types of things. The Buccaneers don't have that vibe. They don't have that drive. They don't have that. You don't feel like they're rallying around Tom Brady. It just kind of feels like this team's just trying to get the season over with, to be honest with you. I'm sure they want to make the playoffs. I'm sure they want to get to where they, set out to be. But there was a reason, again, why Tom Brady wanted out of this team a year after this last season. There was a reason why he tried to retire and unretire and then collude with the Dolphins to get out of Tampa Bay. Why he got Bruce Arians fired. There's a lot of just ugliness and just around this team. I think the Panthers are coming in this game with a clearer mind, a clearer goal in mind, and I think they get the job done.
This is one of those games where I don't really think the Panthers have Tom Brady's number in any way. I think that game just got out of hand, and just some games just go that way. Similar to the Bears-Patriots game, like I alluded to. Granted, those are 2 not great teams, but these are 2 okay teams going at it. I think Tom Brady wins this game. I think this is a game where he's the experience and the veteran-esque mentality that he has, and I just think it's going to be a close game. It's going to be more of a defensive game. I think that's obviously what we expected. There was a lot more points scored in that last matchup than we expected because it was just a dominant performance from the defense and offense, honestly, from the Panthers there in that last matchup. But this one's in Tampa Bay, a tough place to go play. I think the defense gets up for this one. I just don't trust the consistent level of play that the Panthers have been doing as of late. I think Sam Darnold's going to make a lot of mistakes in this game. Granted, they're not going to need him to throw the ball that much, but I can see a sack fumble. I can see an interception, a pick 6 possibly. He's known for throwing those. And I think Tom Brady doesn't have to go out there and be special. Doesn't have to go out there and be, Tom as you know, who we know he is. I don't think this is going to require a game-winning drive with penalties, leading the way down the field. I don't think it's going to require any of that. But I think the Buccaneers do just enough to win this game. Tom Brady knows. I think Tom Brady 100% wants to make the postseason here. I don't think he's into wasting time, wasting seasons. He 100% wants to make the postseason. I think they will. I think getting this win seals that for them. And he knows that. The team knows that. It's still a well-coached team. That defense is still very good when firing on all cylinders. And I think they can definitely get after Sam Darnold here, make it a long day for him. They just have to stop the run from Carolina. That's a lot easier said than done as of late. Those guys have been running wild. Granted, they ran all over Detroit's defense, who's not a good defense in any way. But the Bucs' rush defense hasn't been the best either. They have their moments where they step up, but that secondary hasn't been that great either. But they're getting guys back, and I think this is a big game for the passing offense of the Bucs. I think this is a good opportunity for guys like Godwin and Mike Evans. I think this is a situation where they could take advantage of that banged-up secondary. They're not going to be able to run the ball that well because that defensive line is extremely stout and they're very good at getting after the quarterback, so I think he's going to want to get the ball out quick like he has all year. Checking it down to guys like Rachaad White, who I think could have a good game as well. I just think the Bucs do enough here to win this game. I think the league wants to see Tom Brady making the postseason. They want to see Aaron Rodgers making the postseason, and both those guys are looking to make the postseason here. It's kind of lining up for both of these guys. Go figure. So, and I think it's better for the league when they are in the postseason. So I think this is where they lock it up and solidify their spot, and I think it starts here. So,
and then finally, the last game I want to touch on. And again, we'll give you guys our full slate of games before kickoff tomorrow, as we do each and every week on Facebook and on Twitter. But this is probably the biggest matchup of the season. It's Monday Night Football. The Bengals are hosting the Bills. Somehow, some way, the Bills are 1-point favorites on the road against the Bengals, who have won 7 straight games and 9 of their last 10 games.
Yeah. At
home again. And if I'm not mistaken, I think the Bengals only have one home loss this season. It was Week 1. Yeah,
Steelers.
Week 1 again. That was a crazy-ass game.
Yeah.
That was such a weird game. They have one loss at home, and it was the very first game of the season. Since then, they beat the Dolphins 27-15, beat the Falcons 35-17, beat the Panthers 42-21, Chiefs 27-24, Browns 23-10. They've been dominating opponents, is what I'm saying, basically, at home this season. And I know that the Bills are a team that are very much respectable, one of the best teams in the league, have a very respectable defense. The run game's actually gotten better at the second half of the season. James Cook has been unbelievable. Yeah. Really added a dimension to their offense they haven't had over the last couple of years with getting a reliable running back to get them those 5 to 10 yards. But I find it funny how the Bengals just continue to get disrespected here. Because the Bengals, to me, are the better team. I know that the Bills have a better record, but the Bills have really faced. I mean, the teams they've been facing this year have not been overall the best teams in the league. For instance, I had the tweet right here because I had posted it when some dipshit was talking on Twitter about the cupcake schedule that the Chiefs have had this year, and I just kind of found that funny because if you look at, and I'm going to find it real quick because I know I had it right here because. We were talking just the other day about this. Yeah, so over a third of the Bills' schedule this year have faced quarterbacks by the name of Kenny Pickett, Zach Wilson, Jacoby Brissett, Mac Jones twice, and Mike White. And Mike White got hurt in that game, by the way. All while facing the 17th, 27th, 16th, 18th, 28th, 21st, 32nd, 27th, 31st defenses and over half of their schedule.
That's the Bills' schedule.
That's the Bills' schedule. Yeah. So I find that funny that we're sitting here talking about like the Bills having like they're just this better team that have had a tougher road when they just absolutely haven't.
Yeah.
And again, the Bengals did what the Bills also did in beating the Chiefs, and I think the Bengals just continue to get overlooked in this matter because everyone has this oversaturation, over-infatuation for Josh Allen, which, by the way, take it from my guy Nick Wright, who actually posted this the other day because I thought this was an incredible little get from the Josh Allen aspect of things because everyone's just assuming he's playing like an MVP right now. I think it's absolutely hilarious. Josh Allen, since beating the Chiefs in Week 6, that was over 2 months ago. He's 26th in passer rating. He has the most turnovers in the league. He's 30th in completion percentage. He's 21st in yards per pass. He's 12th in passing yards per game, and is 9th in passing touchdowns. He's been awful for 2 months.
Has the league figured out Josh Allen?
Yeah, exactly. Why isn't that the conversation? It's funny how that hasn't happened. Not to dive too deep into this matchup. I guess I'm just trying to figure out, though, why are the Bills favorites in this game? They don't have... Joe Burrow is a better quarterback than Josh Allen right now. He is. He's a better quarterback right now than Josh Allen. Josh Allen might be more talented. He might have more to his game. But you even saw it in the Dolphins game last week, where Josh Allen for 3 quarters could not get past the Dolphins. It wasn't until he finally just said, I'm just going to start running the ball, that they actually started to move the chains. The Dolphins were winning that game. They had an opportunity to win that game. I don't think the Bengals are the type of team that are going to squander that, especially at their house, especially knowing they have an opportunity to get the 1 seed. Because the Chiefs slip over in the next 2 weeks, Bengals win this game, they get the 1 seed. And then the Bills would fall to the 3 seed. So there's a golden opportunity here for the Bengals to get this win, man. And it's at home on Monday Night Football. We know how raucous that crowd is in Cincinnati. And again, I'm looking for advantages here for the Bills to convince me they're going to go on the road and beat that team. Yeah. Because the Bills have not been the team that everyone said they were, at least from my point of view. They've not been this dominant force. They've been surviving games. They've been winning games despite Josh Allen. But they've also been losing games because of Josh Allen. And when they've been facing good teams, that's been, since week 6, a problem they've been having. And eventually this team is going to miss Von Miller. I think that's beginning now. And I think, guys, and I said this very confidently, and I'll say it again because I said it a week ago and I'll say it again today. By this time, Tuesday morning, the Chiefs will be the 1 seed. They will have the 1 seed. The Bengals are going to beat the Bills in this game. And I know it's going to probably be a closer game, but I think the Bengals are going to score points in this one because it's a bad matchup for the Bills. Because you know one thing the Bills have struggled at, as crazy as it sounds, is against the pass. Their rush defense has usually been the one that struggled. But you saw multiple times Tua was hitting wide open guys and missing wide open guys. Joe Burrow is maybe the most accurate quarterback in the league, unlike what Tyreek Hill said. He talked about the wrong quarterback. Joe Burrow might be the most, I think he has the opportunity to break the record for the most or the highest completion percentage in NFL history for a single season. Yeah. You have a healthy Jamar Chase. You have a healthy T. Higgins. You have a healthier Tyler Boyd. Joe Mixon's back. Samaje P. Ryan's a solid running back.
T. Higgins a little banged up.
He's still a little banged up. He's healthy enough to play.
Yeah.
Their offensive line is the part where I am concerned a little bit because Lael Collins being out is going to be something. But that would matter to me massively if Von Miller was playing. Yeah. He's not. So that could be a wash is what I'm saying. Yeah. And the Bengals have been able to get the ball out quick out of Joe Burrow's hands. I think the Bengals are going to score over 27 in this game. Yeah. I think they're going to hold the Bills under 25 in this game, and they're going to win the game by a touchdown. They're obviously going to cover the -1, and they're going to go and put the Bills back in the 3 seed where I had them originally, and the Chiefs are going to get that 1 seed this week. Trevor, how do you see this game going?
Yeah, the Bengals are the hottest team in the NFL right now. I mean, you can't really argue it. I mean, the way that they've consistently been putting wins together in this stretch, it's as great as the Chiefs' offense is, this has been the most hottest team, like overall, all around. I think it's been. Granted, they had a close one that looked closer than it was with the Patriots last week. But the defense made a big play in the moment to put the game away. You know, they forced that fumble on Ramondre Stevenson. So I mean, listen, this is a team that I have much respect for. They've had our number, and I have nothing respect for teams that can do that to us. So I have no problem picking them in this game. I think they win convincingly in this one. I agree with you. Going to the jungle for the Bills, going to the jungle is a tough place to play for any team. Yep. That's a tough place. Since he's always been a tough place to play, even in the Andy Dalton days and Carson Palmer days. It's always been a team that you don't a stadium you have a tough time playing. That's a good crowd, a good home team, and just a tough environment. And I think this team's rolling right now. I think the two teams are just going in different directions. I know the Bills have consistently been winning games as well, but it just hasn't been that impressive, and it just hasn't been like in a convincing way. The Bengals have been winning very convincingly, and Joe Burrow might be the better quarterback in this matchup, man. He arguably is, and this, I mean, he is without a question right now, statistically, the way these guys are playing at this time. So, listen, this is a big game for both of these teams. This is a very big game for the Bills because, like you said, if they lose, we leapfrog them, and we all got one game left after that, to decide how things go out. And I am very confident in the Chiefs to finish with the 1 seed if this game goes the way we want to. And I think the Bengals, not because I want to, but because I believe. I think the Bengals are the better team right now, and I think Joe Burrow is a better quarterback right now, and I think the defenses are pretty equal at this moment. So all things being equal, the Bengals being at home, I think this is a good situation for them. And I do agree with you. I think they win by at least a touchdown in this game. I think they win convincingly. I think there's some backdoor points scored for the Bills to make it look closer than it was.
So you think this could be like a potential blowout?
Not a blowout, but I think it's a comfortable win.
Yeah,
I think they're up 10 heading into the fourth, and I think they win by a score.
Do you think that Josh Allen has more than one or more turnovers?
No.
You think he has a clean game?
I think he has. I think you can chalk him up for one. I think he tries to force some points down the stretch, and I think that's something that, or it could be an early one. He likes to throw them early.
Because we got to remember, although the Bengals' offensive line's banged up, so are the Bills' offensive line.
Yeah.
You know, Deion Dawkins is banged up.
But honestly, if we're being honest,
play.
both of these quarterbacks can turn the ball over. And we've seen Joe Burrow have like 5 interception games before.
Yeah.
We've seen him have those. That could definitely happen too. This is gonna be a fun. This is one of my most intriguing matchups in the entire year.
Both these guys have more picks than Patrick Mahomes, by the way.
Right. So I'm saying Joe Burrow. We can't sleep on Joe Burrow turning the ball. Joe Burrow likes to turn the ball over too. He definitely does. His whole career has done that. Even in college, he's definitely been a turnover guy. He throws picks. So this game, you know what? I'll say it. I think this game does depend on how many times each team turns the ball over. I think that's a massive swing in this game because both these teams are very equally matched.
It's what decided the Chiefs-Bengals game.
Both these offenses are electric. You know, I will give the edge to the Bengals. I think they have better offense in my mind. Jamar Chase is an absolute fierce weapon, and T. Higgins is the worst matchup for that secondary. The size and the speed that he has. If he can stay in there and stay healthy, I think he's going to dominate that secondary. So yeah, I'm picking the Bengals here to win comfortably. I think they take care of business. I think they do us a solid for already beating our asses 3 times in one calendar year. Please just, if you're gonna do us a solid, man, by outside of your dominance on us, just do us a solid and beat these Bills so we can have that 1 seed. But yeah, I like the Bengals here, man. I like them a lot actually.
That's where our picks are right now. Hit us up in the chat on YouTube and let us know if you guys agree with those or some of the other picks you guys might have that you find intriguing. Because like I said, there's other games, and we give you that full slate as well. I do want to ask though, Trevor, because I'm looking at the current landscape of quarterbacks across the league. Is it crazy? Would it be crazy if I said that I think the 5 best quarterbacks in the league are in the AFC?
Not at all, man.
Think about it:
It's
Patrick
loaded.
Mahomes, Joe Burrow, Josh Allen, Justin Herbert, and Trevor Lawrence.
You can't argue that right now. Trevor Lawrence especially has been on the rise. The way he's been playing lately.
I know that Jalen Hurts is on the NFC. I know Aaron Rodgers is there. Matt Stafford when healthy. Tom Brady's still there. Kirk Cousins. But I would pick all 5 of those quarterbacks before I picked any of them.
100%.
Geno Smith's had a good year, but come on, we know what he is.
Jalen Hurts and Trevor Lawrence are the 2 interchangeable pieces here. But the other guys, it's not even a question.
Yeah, Trevor Lawrence over the last 7 weeks has been an elite quarterback.
Yes.
And I think this is that coming of age. This is only his 2nd season.
I'm telling you, man.
And this is coming from a guy that said at the beginning of the year, I didn't see special in Trevor Lawrence.
And they're going to make the playoffs. I'm really excited to see what he does in the postseason.
He looks incredible. So I look at the 5 best quarterbacks in the league, and I think I listed them: Mahomes, Burrow, Josh Allen, Justin Herbert, and Trevor Lawrence. I think those are the 5 best quarterbacks in football right now.
Which would be a good idea. If that's what I'm saying. Like with Tom Brady, Tom Brady conversation.
Stay
in the NFC, man.
Because the AFC is a juggernaut just from the quarterback position alone, man.
Yeah, and as much as I love Jalen Hurts and I love what he's done this year, he's been great and definitely fixed the turnovers and stuff like that. But we need to see more from him consistently.
Yeah.
After this year, what is he going to do? I like him as a person. I like him what he's done this year. I love that team. But I don't know. I don't know how much future, I don't know how much promise he has for a long career to put these kind of seasons together.
When you have the best offensive line in the league, when you have multiple star receivers, one of the 3 to 5 best tight ends in football, Nick Sirianni, up and coming young head coach, you have a great defense from certain aspects, not overall, but from certain aspects.
And we've seen guys, and you didn't even. And we talked about all those quarterbacks in the AFC. You didn't even mention Lamar, who's obviously having a down year, but because injuries and that roster's just not that great offensively. He has no one really.
Yeah, would it be crazy to say he's the 6th?
So I'm saying, let's not forget about Lamar, guy. When he's going, he's.
I had him as an MVP.
His MVP season was one of the greatest things we've ever seen in the NFL.
He was unanimous. So yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy, bro.
Which leads me to my and I don't want to take this one too long into the conversation, but Trevor, Eddie, and I had our current top 5 MVP candidates. Eddie, because he's not here, I'm going to give you guys his. He has Patrick Mahomes at the top with Jalen Hurts, Joe Burrow, Justin Jefferson, and Josh Allen trailing. Trevor, I want to get to yours in a second. I want to just explain mine though, because mine's very different than you and Eddie's. Yeah. At least in some regard. There's some we have mostly the same names, but there's one name I threw in there that neither one of you guys had. And I'm gonna explain why. My number 5th in the MVP voting is Justin Jefferson. And I know that sounds nuts to people to have him in the top 5 because he's a wide receiver, and more times than not, no wide receiver is ever going to win this award again unless they have like 2,500 yards and like 20 touchdowns. It's never going to happen because it's not a position of ultimate value. Let's be real. It's a position that's reliant on quarterback play.
Right.
So that's why it doesn't happen. But ever so often, you have a guy like Cooper Kupp last year, who I thought was an MVP candidate, had the trifecta. He had the triple crown, led in receptions, yards, and touchdowns. Those are special seasons that guys like that have to be considered or at least mentioned into it. Justin Jefferson is having a very similar season and just broke Randy Moss's single season record for the Vikings. I never thought was going to be touched. So Justin Jefferson is quickly becoming one of the greatest receivers, not in today's NFL. I think he's the best of all time. And he's only 23 years old.
He's pacing all the greats, man.
It's unbelievable what this kid's already become. So the season he's having, knowing that Kirk Cousins, an up and down quarterback in his career, knowing how bad the defense has been for the Vikings, yet they still have the second best record in the league. Why is that? You always have to reflect on why. Like when you see a team's record so good, like you look at the Eagles, you're like, well, they have a complete offense. Jalen Hurts has been really good. Good run team. Great. There's just a lot of things to play. When it comes to the Vikings, we all know why they're this great because Justin Jefferson has been this great.
Imagine what his contract's going to look like.
I mean, yeah, exactly. You take Justin Jefferson off the Vikings right now, they're probably a 9-win team because
rookie contracts.
They're 11-0 in one-score games this year. 11-0. That's historically great.
Yeah.
You don't think it's because of Justin Jefferson? Look at the Bills game. He made the greatest catch I maybe have ever seen in that game.
2 incredible
on like
catches.
4th and 20.
Yeah.
And he goes and snags that bitch and goes and brings that thing down one-handed. Justin Jefferson's the ultimate difference maker for the Vikings and is why they have one of the best records in football and are why one of the best teams in football. So that's why he's a number 5.
No doubt.
My number 4 is Jalen Hurts. Guys, I am not a hater of Jalen Hurts. I actually love this kid. I have him in the same category of a Lamar Jackson, and hear me out on this. I have a problem with running quarterbacks when it comes to their ultimate value. Now, again, Lamar Jackson deserved his MVP in 2019. He deserved that. But why was Lamar Jackson is the MVP? It wasn't just because he ran the ball well. He was throwing the ball very well that season. Yeah. And Jalen Hurts, although has been efficient at throwing the ball this season, he hasn't been elite at throwing the ball this season. And Jalen Hurts is now not available, and he'll probably miss his second game. And when we're in the MVP discussion, you have to be able to play just about every single game. If maybe miss one, but there's got to be context to it. Like if you miss one game and your team just shits the bed, then you're still in the MVP vote. But if you're out and your team scores 34 points on the road against your number 1 foe and almost wins that game despite 5 turnovers, that hurts your chances in MVP, and especially if you miss an additional game. And I think that you're, one of the 7, 8, 9 best quarterbacks in the league. You're not the best. You're not one of the 2 best. I think that hurts your MVP discussion when you consider how great his team also has been around him. I think Micah Parsons ultimately made a good point when he's like, is it him or is it the scheme? I understand that Jalen Hurts can be looked at as the scheme, but you saw what they were with Gardner Minshew, and they didn't miss a beat offensively. They were still scoring at a high clip, at a high magnitude, in a hostile environment, in a big win game for both teams. Which is why I have Nick Bosa as my number 3. This sounds nuts, and I totally get it because it's a defensive player. We almost forget about defensive players when it comes to MVP votes. I think Lawrence Taylor is the last defensive player to ever win MVP, and that was like 34 years ago. But Nick Bosa is my number 3 because of the fact of what I just said about Jalen Hurts. Nick Bosa missed 1 game this season. They lost by 14 points to the Falcons at home in that game. The Falcons. They gave up 28 points to Marcus Mariota in their house. The 1 game Nick Bosa's missed. Do you realize, Trevor, that I think they have 6 straight victories of 13 or more points, by 13 or more points since Nick Bosa's been back? They haven't lost a game since week 10? No, week 9 when the Chiefs beat the shit out of them? Mm-hmm. They haven't lost a game, and they've been dominating every opponent. That's been since Nick Bosa's been back. And it's not just that. They have a rotating door at quarterback. They had Trey Lance get injured, I think, week 2. Jimmy Garoppolo comes in, plays okay, gets injured. They go to Mr. Irrelevant, Brock Purdy, a 7th-round rookie, and they haven't missed a beat. Now, you can credit their offense and Kyle Shanahan's genius schematics.
Is Shanahan the MVP there?
Well, that's what I'm saying. He Coach of the Year. Yeah. I have him right now as Coach of the Year.
Yeah, Bosa can get Defensive Player of the Year.
And I think, Bosa will be Defensive Player of the Year because also, while this is all going on, he leads in sacks, he leads in quarterback pressures, and he leads in quarterback hits.
He's insane, man.
What he's doing is here's the other thing. He missed
value.
a game. He missed a game and still leads in sacks by 2 over Matthew Judon, who's played every game this season.
Damn near every snap, too.
Joey Bosa's on pace to have 20 sacks this season. So I'm looking at him, I'm saying, rotational door at quarterback, tough as hell schedule, dominating all their opponents for over the last 2 months. Who's been their best player? Who's been their most valuable asset? The one time he missed, they got shelled by a 5-win team at home. Nick Bosa. So that's why I have my case for Nick Bosa in this argument. But let's be real. This really comes down to two guys, and I don't even think it really is a two-guy race, but the conversation has to go there. Joe Burrow's my number 2. Because Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase missing 5-6 games. T. Higgins been banged up. Tyler Boyd's been banged up. Joe Mixon's missed time. Samaje P. Ryan's not a great proven running back, but he's a solid backup running back. Their offensive line's been banged up. They're losing Lael Collins, getting sacked a bunch of times. Their defense has missed players. They lost their number 1 corner before the season really even got kicked off. Trey Hendrickson's gotten injured. And yet they've won 9 of their last 10 games in 7 straight. Why is that? Because Joe Burrow is simply incredible. Yep. You take Joe Burrow off this Bengals team, they've probably won 5 or 6 games, and that's being nice.
That's how they ended the season last year too. They ended it super hot. Yeah, I mean,
they got absolutely hot. Now,
scary.
Joe Burrow the first month was a turnover heavy. I think he had like 6-7 interceptions in the first 6-7 games. He had that 5
interception game last year too. Yeah,
but Joe Burrow always finds a way, dude, to get back into the equation. And when he beat the Chiefs, think about it. Joe Burrow has a chance to beat both Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen this season. Now, they'd be both home games, but that doesn't matter. Yeah. They're still 2 of the best quarterbacks in the league, and you beat them both. So he does that, man. He's got himself a very strong case to be right up there with Patrick Mahomes. But Patrick Mahomes is my obvious number 1 because we all know this is a narrative-driven award. We know that you have to have a good storyline attached in order to win it, especially of late, especially in the social media era, because we saw Brett Favre back in the early 90s win 3 straight. So we know it was a little bit different 30 years ago. Yeah. But in today's NFL, you can't tell me there's a better, more proven storyline and situation and case for a player than Patrick Mahomes. Yes, he still has Travis Kelce. Yes, he still has Andy Reid. But he came into this season missing one of the single most dynamic players in the history of football at wide receiver in Tyreek Hill. You go and get a bunch of ragtag receivers. I love Juju Smith-Schuster, but he's not a great receiver by any means. MVS has been fine, not great by any means. In fact, he's been awful a lot of times this season. Justin Watson, as we talked about, has like 5 drops on the season. These are guys they've been relying on. Not to mention a rookie in Sky Moore, a midseason acquisition, and an injury-prone Kadarius Toney, and Mecole Hardman, who's been a scat player. He's been a guy that does the jet sweeps and the gimmicky stuff. These are guys that they're relying on. Yeah. And Patrick Mahomes leads the league in passing yards and passing touchdowns and total offense and total touchdowns. And is second in quarterback rating only to Tua Tagovailoa by like point something, because Tua Tagovailoa has played fewer games, has fewer pass attempts, and has Tyreek Hill, the guy that Patrick Mahomes just lost, along with Jalen Waddle, in an offense that is run by Mike McDaniel, who's an offensive genius. Mm-hmm. And Patrick Mahomes is still doing all this. Oh, and by the way, is about to get the 1 seed back in the AFC, which we just talked about has probably 5 or 6 best quarterbacks in the league currently in the NFL. Patrick Mahomes is by far the MVP. It's not even close. I love Joe Burrow. I respect Joe Burrow. I love Nick Bosa. I love all these guys that are on my list. But they're not the MVPs. Patrick Mahomes is. I know I didn't have Josh Allen on my list. I know you and Eddie both did. Mm-hmm. Josh Allen's been awful for 2 months. His team has lost their last 2 games. Their last 2 losses they've had is simply because of Josh Allen, because he was awful in those games. And I think that Josh Allen should be in the MVP discussion, but he's not, in my opinion, because these other guys are more deserving of it. What are your lists, Trevor?
Yeah, so on my 5th one on this list is Justin Jefferson. I've been a fanboy of this guy since he entered the league. Man, you couldn't have had a better transition from letting Stephon Diggs walk and then using that pick to go get Justin Jefferson. Yeah, the Vikings just cashed out big on that, and he's still on his rookie contract doing what he's doing right now. I mean, the impact. You're talking about impact and value. I know a receiver would never win MVP because the prerequisites to come into you have to have a quarterback that can get you the ball first, and that's just it's a quarterback award, and we all are aware of this. But I'm not going to let this conversation go by without giving him his recognition for what he's done and the impact he's had in single-handedly, no pun intended, winning a lot of these games for the Vikings. You know what I mean? So like that Bills game for one just kind of just solidified that for him with me, especially like the MVP acknowledgement he deserves. So I'm going to give Justin Jefferson his kudos there and just give him his praise and his flowers on this one. So I threw him in there as my 5th one. 4, I do have Josh Allen. I know as of late, in the last couple months, he's been rough, and they have been losing. The games they have been losing have been because of him in a lot of the sense. But they've also won way more games because of him than losing because of him. He has a lot of turnovers. Obviously, leads the league in total turnovers, but he's also on pace to have a career high in passing yards and touchdowns. He's throwing it all. His completion percentage is about 64% almost, which is still good. So, I mean, on the year, he's had a really, really good year. He's honestly having a career year. Obviously, a career year in possible turnovers as well, but he's also going to have most likely, if he throws for, around 300 yards these next 2 games, he's going to surpass his career high in passing yards and touchdowns. He only needs a few more really to pass that. So he's having a great year statistically still. He's on a very good team. And I think he, and if they beat the Bengals and they solidify the 1 seed, which we obviously don't think is going to happen, but if he does and he has, career high numbers, he 100% is going to be in the conversation for MVP. You just can't not have him in the conversation for MVP if he does those things. Granted, I know he's had a rough stretch, but he's also had an extremely great stretch for the first 2 quarters of the season. So I can't deny that. You got to take the good with the bad and find that balance. And I think overall he has been an MVP candidate. He was the favorite for most of the year, outside of these last few weeks, in the last 6 to 8 weeks he's had. They've been oddly becoming more of a run heavy team, and depending on running and defenses, really trying to win games in spite of him, which has been an odd thing. But he still is on pace for career numbers, and is on pace to win the 1 seed if they just take care of this next game. So if those things happen, he 100% deserves to be in my list. So that's why I have him there. Jalen Hurts is my next guy. I mean, how could you not love this guy? I mean, what he's done, and granted, this is probably the most talented roster in the NFL overall. Maybe them and the Niners. I would still give them the edge because of their offensive talent. The addition of A.J. Brown was just an insane addition to that offense. Sirianni, I love that guy, what he's done with this team, the confidence they have, the offensive line they have, the defensive line they have, the secondary that they have. There's so much talent all the way around in every position. They're just stacked. But I think what he's done, he's been the perfect piece for this team. He has. His mobility. The dude has, 13 rushing touchdowns on the year, which is insane.
Stupid.
22, 23 passing touchdowns or something like that.
That's more rushing touchdowns, I think, than Lamar's ever had in a season.
That's what I'm saying. So, I mean, and he does it so efficiently, and what he's done with the QB sneak this year and absolutely just dominated the line of scrimmage in those situations, short yardage plays. He's been such a rock for them. Just playing and the ability to improve from one season to the next, him turning the ball over far too many times and being kind of careless with the ball last year to coming into being one of the safest, if not the safest quarterback with the ball in his hands this year. Really changing that and working on his delivery of the ball, his throwing motion, things like that. He's just so much improved. And I could be happier for him and proud of him what he's done. I know he was up there with the arguments being the MVP this year if they would have finished the season without injury, and if he wouldn't if they wouldn't have dropped this game to the Cowboys. It is what it is, but I think he's definitely deserving in this conversation. I don't know how the season ends for him. I don't know how the postseason looks for him, if he's going to be healthy enough. But we'll see. But he's definitely deserving to be in this conversation for the year that he's had and the improvements he's made this past offseason. Joe Burrow would be my next guy. I mean, how could you not? I think he's the closest to Patrick Mahomes in this conversation for what he's done this past 8-9 games in this season so far. His numbers have been outrageous. His completion rate has been outrageous, like you said. The touchdowns he's been throwing. This team is just clicking on all cylinders. So he's got weapons galore, obviously. So he's just doing his job, and he's doing his job very well. They're winning games because of him. He's making a lot of great throws to put games away. He's had some close ones, but he's finding ways to win, and that's what MVPs do. And the value he provides for this team it's unmatched outside of one guy. And that's Patrick Mahomes, who's my number one. I don't think we need to dive into it too much, like you said. Like it's pretty self-explanatory. You lose an absolute, maybe the most dangerous weapon in the NFL in an offseason, and you replace it. No discredit to Juju. Juju's been great, but he's been banged up a couple times this year, and he's just not Tyreek Hill. You can't replace that. You can't replace a Deebo Samuels, a Tyreek Hill, Justin Jefferson, or anything like that. Jamar Chase. You just can't replace dynamic players like that. Dynamic players are a dime a dozen. Like they just don't. They're rare guys. You know what I mean? So. You lose that in this offseason. You make Travis Kelce even that much more of a pivotal emphasis, player, and emphasis on his what you need from him. And he's done nothing but step up, obviously, in this year. But you can only get so much out of one guy like that, let alone a tight end. So what he's done with this team, all these new additions, him putting together his own little camp to try to develop early chemistry with the guys before training camp even starts. Right. That's what MVPs do, and that's why it's paying off right now in this late stretch of the year. Even bringing late additions like Kadarius Toney, who's already got multiple touchdowns. In just a couple weeks, he had 0 touchdowns with the Giants his whole career over there with them. So that just goes to show you the leadership of not only our coaches, but the leadership of Patrick Mahomes and the recent play he made last week when, holding his entire body with the one wrist and staying in bounds and tapping that pylon. That's just MVP shit right there. And he does it on a weekly basis. And the league's just exhausted by it. Everyone's exhausted by it, which is why they're trying to search for anybody else to win this award other than him. And it's him every single season he's playing. There's no one is going to be more worthy of MVP as long as he's playing in a complete season. It is what it is. It's the LeBron James effect. It's the Patrick Mahomes effect. It just is what he's the best player in the NFL, and that's what he deserves. That.
And let's be real, this should be Patrick Mahomes' 3rd MVP. 100%. 2020 should have been a year Patrick Mahomes won MVP.
Yeah.
The only reason he didn't get MVP that year is because of the fact he sat out the final week.
Yeah.
Because the Chiefs had the 1 seed locked up. He'd have played that week. He'd had 5,000 passing yards, and he had over 40 touchdowns. That gets you the MVP.
Yeah.
I know Aaron Rodgers was awesome that season. Had 48 touchdowns, had like 4,300 passing yards. All true. Patrick Mahomes led the AFC, and they went 15 or 14-1 in games he played. And he had, I think, 38 touchdowns to 6 interceptions with like a 112 quarterback rating.
Yeah.
And that's an MVP rating.
And I think the most important thing, and I'll say it again, is the fact that all the talking heads, all the people who were talking about this offseason, how the Chiefs were going to take a step back. A lot of people had finished. There was a lot of respectable people that had us finishing last in this division, which is absolutely hilarious and just pure comedy to me. But the fact that he heard all of that.
Yeah.
Tyreek's gone. We don't have that impact of guy that's going to catch 150 balls and have 12 touchdowns.
Right.
We don't have that guy anymore. We don't have the guy you can dump it off to and just take it to the house at any given moment and make those impactful plays against like the Bills game, things like that. We don't have that guy. We lost that dynamic part of this offense. And yet, here we are. A great chance to take this 1 seed still. And win 12-plus games, and it's just and win this division for the 7th straight year. There's no one else in this league that deserves that award more than Patrick Mahomes. Nor do I think he cares that much about it because we all have one goal here. But everyone knows, all fans know, anybody who watches this game, and all the people that are eating crow and eating their words from this past offseason, they have to do what they got to do and own up to it and know that this guy is the true MVP of this league, and he is every single time he plays an entirely full season. He's the man. So it is what it is. He's the MVP.
And I will say this, and then we're going to move on because we got to talk about the Chiefs Broncos. I do believe this matters to Patrick Mahomes. I do believe he wants to win this MVP. I think as soon as Tyreek requested to be traded, that was on his mind because Patrick is petty.
I just don't think it's anything that he thinks about during the year.
No, I agree.
After the playoffs, maybe. Yeah.
I'm saying that Patrick Mahomes, I do believe in the back of his mind, has said, I'm going to go win the fucking MVP without my best receiving
he heard the chatter.
option. Yes.
Yeah, of course.
So I do believe that was in his mind. So when he says that in the press conference that I don't care, I don't believe that.
Yeah.
What I do believe, though, and I will believe him when he says this and does believe, when he says, I'm worried about winning Super Bowls, that is his top priority.
Right now, like when the season's over, like he goes back in whenever the hand, it's handed out.
I do believe he wants to rack up MVPs because we've had his father on our show and he says that he's got accomplishments he wants to make, and there's nothing wrong with that.
He wants to be the best ever.
I mean, my God, all these dudes that are playing the way they do, I'm sure winning is the number one goal for all these guys, or at least the majority of them. But they all want to be up there in the record books. You don't think if I was a pro player, let's say I was a pro baseball player, because I always wanted to play baseball growing up.
Yeah.
You don't think for a second I'd want to look up stats on all-time home run lists and not have my name up there?
Well, especially a guy like Pat, who's already got his money locked up.
That's what I'm saying.
You know what I mean? Like that's not a concern anymore. Just go out there and be the best.
Yeah.
That's all he's got to worry about. So I mean, he's gonna get his MVPs, man. So I'm not worried about that. But yeah, so it's not even a question. And I want to thank all the talking heads and all the ignorant, off-season talk that and chatter, that the doubt. Yep. Keep it coming. Like all it does is anytime you can give petty Mahomes the motivation, bro, I'm all for it. That's why I was excited when all these people were saying these things. It's like, bro, let's go.
Yeah.
If I'm feeling boosted and juiced by it, can you imagine what he's feeling? So
that's what I'm saying, dude.
He's done nothing but go out there and just shut them all up.
This is a team that is fueled by that fire. They are fueled by that type of doubt and just absurdity. Just having some of these people talk. Like I'm going to post in a minute. Bart Scott at the beginning of the year was talking about his five best teams coming in the season. Not only did he not have the Chiefs on there, I think he had like the Browns and some other teams on there. So like the doubt was set in. So anybody that wants to pretend like, well, of course you guys are looking, great. Of course Patrick Mahomes is great. This is what you guys all can pretend to be dumb and act like like you guys didn't see the same shit and hear the same shit I did.
Right.
But every single morning when I turn on Get Up or Undisputed or any of these other shows, they were always talking about, well, losing Tyreek Hill is going to be too much. I remember Colin Cowherd said that by the bye week, the Chiefs would be lucky to be 5-3, and they were 7-2. You know what I mean? So or 5 was he say 5-4 or 6-3, and the Chiefs ended up being 7-2. Like that's what I'm saying. Like they've overcome all the obstacles so far. They got a lot more to do. But so far, man, yeah, Patrick Mahomes has proven more than ever that he is the single best, most valuable player in this league, and it's not really even that contentious. But we're going to leave it there, and as I say in every segment, hit us up. Let us know what you guys think on the YouTube channel. Who's your MVP? Who's your 5? Or you have more? Let us know. Let us know what do you guys think of our list, and we'll go from there. Let's move to the Chiefs and Broncos, Volume 2. Second game of their stint. They've already played this last month against each other. They're going to play each other again within I think it was a 4-week stretch. So it's always interesting to see this kind of stuff happen because, obviously the second time around you take notes from what took place in the first one. But when it's this close and this tied together, it's even more interesting because you haven't had that much time off from between each other. But what's funny is, as bad as the Broncos were when the Chiefs faced them the first time, they're even worse now. And it's just from a availability and coaching situation. Now, Nathaniel Hackett was a terrible coach. We all knew this. He should have never been a head coach at the beginning. I said that from the beginning of the season. I was like, this guy wasn't even calling plays in Green Bay. Like, how do we know this guy's going to be a good coach for Russell Wilson and for this offense? And he didn't even make it through the season. Ends up getting canned this week. I'm going to get to some stuff in a little bit about the Broncos and how they've been approaching this whole thing since Nathaniel Hackett's been fired. But they bring in the interim coach as their clock manager, some like 78-year-old dude that's been helping Nathaniel Hackett. He's never been a coach.
Yeah,
dude's never been a head coach at any level, and so he's basically like Jeff Saturday taking over already a horrendous offense that doesn't have any drive or motivation to win this game. The Broncos are in a very weird situation because they don't even have a first-round pick this year, so they can't tank. But if they win these games, it doesn't even matter because it doesn't help them at all. So they're in a very weird situation. Russell Wilson and the Broncos got absolutely embarrassed last week in L.A. against Baker Mayfield, who outshined everybody, dominated the the Broncos defense. And it's funny because Baker's been with the team for 3 weeks and looks significantly better than Russell did all season with the Broncos. And it was such an embarrassment to watch that. It was fun as hell to watch. They gave up 51 freaking points to the Rams with a newly acquired Baker Mayfield who's been on 3 teams in the last year. Yeah. So going into this game, you think, the Broncos are coming here pissed off, and the Chiefs are going to have to really take on a team that's going to come in here and give it their all. I don't think that's going to be the case. And I know that the last time these teams faced was 34-28. We were all expecting a blowout. It essentially was a blowout. The Chiefs were up 27-0 at one point in that game. What was the one thing that kept the Broncos in that game, Trevor? Turnovers. Patrick Mahomes had 3 interceptions in that game, and that led to 21 points for the Broncos. The Broncos come into this game averaging under 16 points a game, which is the worst in football. When they faced the Chiefs last time, they were averaging under 14. So I guess you could say they're on an upswing. But when you look at this matchup, I'm not trying to dismiss the first matchup, but I'm going to dismiss the first matchup a little bit. Because the only reason that was even a game was because the Chiefs allowed the Broncos opportunity after opportunity after opportunity to make it a game. They gave a lifeless team life. Yeah. And again, as bad as the Broncos were in that game, they're even worse now because they're even more banged up, and now they have no coach at all. And their coach was already terrible. Now they have no coach. So you're putting even more emphasis now on Russell Wilson to lead the way. He's clearly proven he's not that guy. He was never that guy. It was always Pete Carroll's show and that elite defense they had in Seattle. Now he's here in Denver, still a very good defense over here in Denver. But they can't get nearly enough of offense to get them victories on a consistent, normal basis. Now you're coming into Kansas City. It won't be a hostile environment for Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs. You're coming into Kansas City knowing the Chiefs have everything to play for in this one because of the fact they know the Bengals take care of business the next night in Monday Night Football in Cincinnati against the Bills. The Chiefs getting this victory against the Broncos almost assures that the Chiefs are going to get the 1 seed. Not get the 1 seed, but maintain it, because then the last week we have against the Chiefs have the Las Vegas Raiders with Jarrett Stidham starting in Las Vegas, a place the Chiefs have racked up points throughout the last couple of years since they played over there. the scenario is built in for the Chiefs to absolutely capitalize in this one. And I can see this being a game. I've heard other people say about going out there and just getting your offense feeling good about, scoring a bunch of points, because for the majority of the season, the Chiefs have been the number one offense in EPA. Now I think they've been fourth over the last like 5 weeks. But they're still scoring a ton of points and putting up a bunch of points on the board. They have struggled to score in the 30s on a normal, consistent basis of last month. But I think also what's happened is the Chiefs have gotten a little, okay, we're worried about the playoffs now. We're in the playoffs. We've clinched our division. We still have a great chance of getting the 1 seed. But we're just trying to stay healthy and just get to the playoffs. I think that's how the Chiefs are going to handle this game as well. But I also think there's going to be the exact same scenario present itself in this game. I think this is going to be very similar to the Seahawks game, where the Chiefs come in here and they put points up, they get a comfortable lead, and they just kind of coast. I am not expecting the Chiefs to score in the deep 30s, early 40s in this game. I don't think they're going to try to. I think Andy Reid is going to put out the preseason playbook because they know how easy this game was for them the first time against Denver in Denver, when Patrick Mahomes just went over there and threw a little Jerick McKinnon toss shovel, and they go and score a 50-yard touchdown. I think Patrick Mahomes has 1 or 2 good special plays like that on a third down, and we're just laughing about it. I think there's a chance, actually, Trevor, I'm going to go ahead and say it now. I think the behind the back pass can happen this week.
Oh, boy.
I think Patrick Mahomes might actually try it out because I think they're going to have a comfortable lead. I think, honestly, the Chiefs could have a 27-0 lead again. If not that, 24-0, 24-3, something like that, where they know they have control of the game. And because of the fact that they went into that Seahawks game and came out of that Seahawks game without a single turnover, I think that's where the trend begins in the opposite direction, where the Chiefs have had 9 straight weeks of of turnovers, at least 1 turnover. I think they're going to have that similar streak going into the postseason where they don't have turnovers. Turnovers can happen here and there, fumble, interception, tip ball, things like that. I don't think they're going to have a turnover against the Broncos in this game. I don't think they're going to make the same mistakes they made in this game. I think the defense is going to play just as good as they did in that game for the majority of that game against Russell Wilson in this horrendous Broncos offense. And the Chiefs come in there and they put it out. They put it out early and they coast and they get that 1 seed back and then focus on Week 18 against another horrendous matchup against the Raiders and work about keeping that 1 seed going into the postseason, getting that first round bye, which would be so great for this Chiefs team to rest a little bit and get ready for that postseason run that they want to have. Yep. I think the Chiefs are going to win the game and win it comfortably. I'll get to my score prediction in just a second. I'll get to my key matchup players in this game in just a second. But first, we need to get to Trevor's thoughts. How do you see this game going, man?
Yeah, this is another game where I feel very confident about our defense. I don't know how much points we put up. I think we put up just enough, like you said. I think it will resemble the game of last week a little bit. Just go out there and be confident. I think this defense has a great spot to get off even more than last week. Sacks, picks, forced fumbles. I think this is a great spot for our defense to continue that juice that we're getting right now, that momentum we're gaining right now. I think this is a great spot for that. I think we go out there and score maybe 24, 27 points. I think that makes sense. That seems extremely doable, but I don't think we need a special game from anybody offensively. I think we run the ball a lot in this game, actually.
Yeah.
I think this is a great spot for really to feed Pacheco, maybe some Rojo in there, because he's been kind of getting his reps every once in a while here. I think this is a good game for him. Like if it's like say we're up in double digits heading in the second half, maybe give him some work, get his juice going, get his legs underneath him a little bit if we need him for the postseason or something like that. I think this is a great position for him and next week as well. Obviously, I'm expecting a win. I am expecting though the defense of the Broncos to kind of come out here and they just got their heart ripped out of them last week. Absolutely just got deep pantsed in front of the entire world. So I think there's going to be a sense of pride. That team is way too talented. That was an outlier of a game. Us scoring 27, going 27-0 on them was extremely a big deal. And then just allowing 50 plus was that's an outlier game. You know what I mean? So I do expect this team, with the talent they have, losing their coach, they still have all the defensive coaches very much intact, and they gave us a struggle at some points in this past matchup with the turnovers, and the second half was an entirely different game. And that's kudos to their defense. And obviously we had some terrible throws by Pat in that game, but they made plays when they needed to, and they put their offensive position to make that a game, and that's exactly what they did. And I'm not saying any turnovers. I think we keep it clean on our end. I don't think we have turnovers, but I think they make it tough for us to go just get points. I think we're going to have to fight for points if we want to go get them, and I think we will, but I don't think we're going to be in the 30s. Absolutely not. I respect this defense. Granted, they are on the road, so it's tough to trust a road defense, but Yeah, I think they're going to come. This is absolutely a lot of guys playing for their jobs next season. With a bunch of new coaches possibly coming in, with the new ownership, making some cuts and changing some things. Who knows what's going to look like for them next year? A lot of these guys are playing for their jobs, and I think this defensive line especially, and we already know the secondary is solidified. They have some young studs back there that are already going to be the guys next year, but this defensive line is going to want to get after Pat, and they're going to want to make our day long. And I expect them to be competitive, but I expect the Chiefs to still win comfortably. But we don't need a special game from Pat. I don't think we're going to expect any special plays. I don't think any behind-the-back throws are going to happen, but I do think there's a chance if we're up 14 points or so late into the third, early fourth, I think Chad Henne can go out there and finish this game. I know I keep trying to say that, but I think towards the end of the year we're going to see a Chad Henne sighting. But if Patrick wants to go out there and get some records, I think this is a chance too where he can run it up a little bit too. And look, there is a chance that the Chiefs blow them out this week. I think that actually can happen. But I do expect the pride and the consistency that defense for Denver has had all year to go out there and at least show what they're capable of. Granted, this is a tough matchup coming into Kansas City, but there's not much more to dive into this game, man. I think we go put up enough points, like you said, just like last week, put up enough points and let our defense do what we do. I'm expecting another great defensive performance from our guys. I think Frank Clark can continue to do what he's doing. I think Frank Clark can go out there and get a sack this week, maybe 2. I think he's a tough challenge for that edge. He's been super fast going off that edge lately, and I think Russell Wilson's going to have a long day. And why wouldn't Frank Clark want to go out there and put it on Russ? You know what I mean? So that feels like a great narrative to go into this week, and I expect our defense to be dominant.
I will say this because the Broncos defense is good and it's elite.
It's been
honestly.
Great.
Yeah, it's been
too.
great. I will say this though, just to make the case that it may not be the same defense that we've seen for the majority of this season, and similar matchups, because again, they don't really have a lot to play for. I know you're talking about the jobs aspect, but a lot of these guys in this Broncos defense are going to be here next year because they're younger guys. Josie Jewell will be back. Pat Surtain will be back. A lot of these guys will be back that are key contributors. So I'm not so much worried about that in this matchup. I think they're trying to get out of this season and just try to get reconfigured for next year, figure out who their head coach is.
Jerry Judy's questionable, I believe, too.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I will say this too: they've been a significantly better home defense than road defense. Not that they were bad on the road at all this year, but at home against the Texans, they gave up 16. At home against the Niners, they gave up 11. And 2 of those points was Jimmy Garoppolo stepping out of bounds. I'm sorry, they won. I'm sorry, they gave up 10 points. They gave up 10 points.
Yeah.
And then at home, they lost 12-9, one of the worst games in the NFL history against the Colts. They lost 16-9 against the Jets at home. They lost at home 22-16 to the Raiders. The Raiders they're good against the Broncos for some weird reason.
Josh Jacobs is good against the Broncos.
And then the only game that they've really gotten blown out or give up a bunch of points at home was against the Chiefs, 34-28.
Yeah.
And one of those touchdowns was a pick 6.
Yep.
So at home, they're a much better defense. But then you see on the road, against Seattle, gave up 17. That's not a bunch, but like I said, first week of the season, they gave up 32 on the road to the Raiders. They gave up 19 to the Chargers on the road. They gave up 17 against the Jaguars. They gave up 17 against a very bad offense against the Titans. They gave up 23 to the Carolina Panthers. And then on the road just this last week, 51 to the Rams.
Yeah.
So they've given up more points on the road, as you would imagine. And I think in this game, I think the Chiefs could fall into 27 to 30 points. Because the Chiefs are such a great offense and they're such an efficient offense that I think they can just have a ho-hum game and score 27-30 points.
I guess it just really depends on how you expect the I think me and you are thinking 2 different things. I think you think the Broncos defense might just go out there and lay down if they go down double digits and then just let it.
I'm not saying that I think they'll lay down. I just think that again, if we're cutting out the turnovers the Chiefs had against the Broncos last time,
we blow them out.
That's what I'm saying. They scored 34 with 3 turnovers.
But that game was much more meaningful at the time than this one is.
That's what I'm saying for both teams.
Yeah.
I think this game still matters to the Chiefs.
For sure. We know we need a win, but I don't think we need to go win in significant fashion.
Unless Patrick throws 3 interceptions again in this game, because like I said, they scored 34 with him.
I think we run the ball a lot more this week than
you run the ball efficiently too, because they were running the ball well against the Broncos.
Yeah, we were.
Jerk McGinn had a big game. I can expect that again this time around. At home, motivated to get that 1 seed back. I do think the Chiefs, like I said, could just fall into a yawning 27 to 31 points.
But I also know that there is a narrative too you can play in this going into this matchup that Patrick Mahomes has some records he possibly could break. You know what I mean? So if he wants to chase that Peyton Manning record, that could definitely happen too. That's something that if we want to play into that, I don't know if that means that much to Patrick because he has a lot of other years he could definitely do that.
I don't know if you saw though.
Yeah.
He's 280 yards away from 5,000 yards.
Yep.
If he does that, when he does that, rather, because he has
Right.
2 weeks to do it, when he does that, he will be one of 3 quarterbacks to ever have multiple 5,000-yard seasons, and he would be by far the fastest to ever do it.
Yeah, for sure.
So, because Drew Brees did it, I think, 5 times.
Yeah.
But he did it later in his career, like in year 9, 10, 11, 14, 15. You know what I mean? Patrick Mahomes has done it. He'll do it 2 times in 5 seasons as a starter. So Tom Brady did it twice.
Yeah, I was going to say Tom Brady only did it twice.
But he did it when he was 29, and then he did it when he was like 38.
Yeah.
So, like, these guys were doing it like when they've already established. Patrick Mahomes is still like getting his feet soaked into into his career.
Yeah, he's going to do it in a year where we lost Tyreek Hill.
Yeah, exactly.
Think about that for a second.
And because of last week, what he did, he's one of three quarterbacks to ever have multiple seasons or 4 seasons of at least 66 completion percentage, 4,500 yards, 35 touchdowns with Tom Brady and Peyton Manning. So I do believe records are going to matter, and I do believe that those records can still be done. I think he's also was at 400 and some odd yards away from having the most yards of total offense in a single season over Drew Brees. I think it was like 2011 when Drew Brees didn't MVP, by the way. But I think he had like, was it 5,800 yards or something like that? Patrick Mahomes has a chance to go, I think he's like 400 some odd yards away because he has over 300 rushing yards.
That's definitely doable.
And yeah, exactly. So he's got an opportunity to break some of these records, but I do believe that although the MVP and the records, all these matter, what matters more to Patrick Mahomes and this team is getting to the postseason healthy, getting that 1 seed back. I think that's what they're going to focus on in this game. I think Travis Kelce's giving a pitch count in this game. I think he probably plays like 35 snaps because they've already been kind of doing that with him to keep him fresh for the postseason because as you said earlier, there's even more of an emphasis of Travis Kelce being that guy in this offense with Tyreek Hill out. McCole Hardman doesn't look like he's going to play this week. Kadarius Toney will play this week. The offensive line's healthy. Defensive line is healthy. Defense for the majority of, I mean, everybody's pretty healthy. Yeah. You look at the Bengals, Bills, and Chiefs. The Chiefs are by far the healthier team of those 3. So I think that's the focus right now for the Chiefs is getting these victories, but not going out there and trying to just play a bunch of snaps and just going to get a bunch of numbers. I do think that's what Andy Reid would like to see, but I do agree with you, Trevor. I think this is going to be more of a balanced attack. I think the Chiefs are going to run the ball 25 to 30 times and just let Pacheco and let McKinnon do what they need to do to get this victory. I'm looking at key players in this game right now. I do think that the pass rush could be something that the pass defense could be something that can make itself ugly for the Chiefs again because Pat Surtain is unbelievable. Josie Jewell is one of the best pass catching linebackers out there snagging the ball with his hands. That's not something linebackers usually do.
2 picks he had on Pat were insane. Yeah.
So I do believe on third downs it's going to be key for the Chiefs to catch passes in this game. We can't have Justin Watson out there dropping balls. We can't have Juju out there getting blown up and the balls getting dropped. The pass catchers to me this week are the key because again, Chiefs have not been good on third down in over 2 weeks. And even against the Broncos, they were only 6 to 12 and third down conversions. They need to get that back. They need to get back to converting 60% of their third downs, 70% of their third downs. I think this is the week they do it. I'm saying pass catchers are the guys. Juju, Kadarius, the others, not Travis Kelce. I trust Travis Kelce, but again, I think he's been on a pitch count. Juju, Kadarius Toney, MVS, Sky Moore, Justin Watson. They are the keys in this game because those are the guys that Patrick is going to have to go to on 3rd and 5, 3rd and 8s, 3rd and 11s. Catch the damn ball, extend these damn drives, get out with a victory. Those are my key players on the offensive side. Defensive side, more of Karlaftis. I want to see more sacks from George Karlaftis. If he gets back there and roughs up Russell Wilson in this game and makes his day difficult, I think the Chiefs could keep them out of the end zone all game long. If Karlaftis is doing what he's done over these last 5 games, just being an absolute madman, swatting the ball like Dikembe Mutombo and getting sacks 4 of his last 5 games, he keeps that trend going, man. He has a chance for defensive rookie of the year. He has a chance. I'm not saying he's going to get it, but he has a chance to go and get that. And I think if you want to look at accolades, that's an opportunity for him to add to that to his belt, having one of the most impressive rookie seasons from an edge rusher in quite a while. I think Karlaftis is a key in this game. I don't want to take your guy because I know that's somebody you like to go to the well with, but I think this is his week to really just establish himself as I'm no longer a good young player. I'm just a good player. Like I'm proving myself in this league early and often. Those are my 2 keys to this game. Trevor, who are yours?
So offensively, if there's ever going to be a week that I'm going to pick Sky Moore, I think it's kind of we saw a little flash of it last week, and he caught that ball at the line of scrimmage and made some moves. And that guy has got moves. He's so tough to guard. He beats press coverage like in his sleep.
Right.
That's his specialty. That guy beats the cover too. Any press coverage, it's just he's very Keenan Allen-esque. In the way he kind of runs his routes, he's very precise, man. And I want to see this kid just go out there and get his for a week.
Right.
I think this is a good game to do it because I have respect for this defense. And I expect Surtain to be on Juju a lot, and I expect a lot of these guys to be, well covered. And I think this is a great spot for him to eat underneath and make some plays after the catch. I think this is a really good spot for him to kind of do that a little bit here, and catch 3-4 balls, make some plays, maybe in the red zone, maybe catch him, having maybe a jet sweep or an in-round play for him this week, similar to how we kind of been setting things up for Kadarius Toney. Maybe have something like that for Sky Moore here. I think he has a good chance to score in the red zone here. I think there's a good chance for him to make a couple plays and draw some things up for him, because I've been kind of seeing him getting his licks in a little bit here and there. He looks good with the ball in his hands. I really like his skill set when the ball is in his hands. So if we can get the ball quick to him make a play, I think he has a good chance to score if things are tight, because he thrives in that tightness. Like when people are pressing him and they're on him, he has a great ability to create separation on guys. Yeah. And I think Pat's going to finally kind of start getting that clicking with him. And I think this can start this week because we saw Justin Watson kind of drop the ball literally and figuratively there in some moments. So that might give Sky a chance here to kind of creep in and maybe take some of those reps. I want to see that, honestly. So I'm hoping this is the week we can kind of see some more of Sky Moore. And defensively, I'm just going to go to the opposite side of the defensive line here. I'm going to go Frank Clark. I think this is a good – we all know for how Frank Clark feels about Russ. You know what I mean? So that not everybody's very fond of him, especially ex-teammates. I think this is good. With the way he's been playing, I think this leads into a great narrative for him to go put it on Russ, get a couple good licks on him. So I think this is a good week for Frank Clark to that O-line's not great. He can definitely beat those guys on the edge, and I could see Frank Clark going out there and getting a couple sacks for himself out there and leading the way for this defensive line. So I like Frank Clark to make some plays this week, man.
I love that.
Yeah.
I think that, man, how fitting would it be if Frank Clark decided to go and have himself a baller game this week? I would
love it.
Yeah. Like I said, whatever is in him, please stay there. Like, I don't know if he got that. Remember Monstars when they got that special stuff from all the players in the NBA?
Yeah.
Maybe that's what happened.
Well, look how good he was in Seattle last week. With that him coming back to Seattle and all that. Like he was juiced up for that. I think he's gonna be juiced up to get after Russ.
Yeah, I think that Frank Clark found that extra motivation or whatever it is that he found or whatever found him. Yeah. God damn, keep it there because it needs to stay.
Yeah.
Because the dude's been absolutely. He's playing by far his best football as a Chief, and that's even considering the 2019 run. Because to his fact of having all those sacks, a lot of those were like.
Well, the postseason sacks were huge, man.
Yeah, they're huge. I'm going to downplay. I'm saying that what I'm seeing from him now looks more like more of a tenacious player than I ever saw in 2019.
For sure, he's motivated.
I think he's got the second most sacks of the season, or in his Chiefs tenure. He had 8 in 2019. I think he has 5 this year, 6 years.
He's playing for that next contract.
Yeah, man. I wish him the best wherever he goes. But yeah, Frank, please keep doing what you're doing. I hope that you're right, Trevor, even more than I am, like about Karlaftis. Because if Frank Clark goes out there and has a couple sacks in this game,
maybe a strip sack.
Dude, look, I've been somebody who's overly critical on Frank Clark. I'll gladly eat crow if that dude's out there balling.
Fair, yeah.
My score again, I know this sounds like just a spoiled Chiefs fan because I'm so used to this team just racking up points. And, watching that Seahawks game, Chiefs only scored 24. You're like, oh, yeah. They won a 24-10 game, ho-hum. The Chiefs playing very mediocre on offense, still pull out a 14-point victory against the 7th-ranked offense in the NFL. That's unbelievable. I considering, again, the Chiefs knew that they let that Broncos game get way out of hand. Should have never been that close. I think the Chiefs are going to tidy things up in this one. They're going to come out here, and I think the Chiefs are going to play a very efficient game. I'm not saying they're going to put up 45 points, anything of that nature. I don't think they even get close to that, but I could definitely see the Chiefs scoring between 27 and 30 points. I'll go ahead and say that I think the Chiefs will score right at 30 in this game. I think they'll kick a few field goals. Harrison Butker better have a fucking good game in this one. I'm sick of worrying about him. I need him to be more of a reliable asset. He was really good last week against the Seahawks. Yeah. Keep that going. I do think the Chiefs score 3 touchdowns in this one, and then I said that 3 touchdowns and 3 field goals. I think that's what would get them 30 points. I think that's what's going to happen this one. I think Patrick Mahomes will have all 3 touchdowns. I'll go ahead and say that now. I think he'll throw 3 touchdowns. I don't think the Chiefs have rushing touchdowns, but I do think the Chiefs will dominate in the run game. I do think that's going to happen because like I said, against the Broncos let me look at that real quick, against their, so the stats are right here. So in the first Broncos game, the Chiefs had 89 rushing yards, and that was in a game where Patrick Mahomes threw for 342 yards. I don't think Patrick's going to throw 342 yards in this game, so I do think that you're going to add another 20, 30 yards of rushing offense. So I think the Chiefs will be in the hundreds in the rushing game. Yeah. Patrick might even run the ball a little bit just to kind of create some space for his offense and some breathing room. But I do think Patrick's going to throw for 3 touchdowns in this one that's going to get him over 40 touchdowns for the season. And I do think that Isaiah Pacheco's going to have around 75, 80 rushing yards. McKinnon will probably add another 25, 30 and get them right over the 100-yard mark, and then Patrick will get another 15 to 20. And I think the Chiefs will run the ball with good relative ease in this one. I don't mean to disrespect the Broncos defense. They're good. But I don't think the Chiefs are going to let the Broncos score more than one touchdown. I do think they get one. I could see like Russ having a nice like deep ball like late in the game, and it's just kind of like,
we held the Seahawks to one.
Exactly, like god damn it, it's one of those like just kind of like garbage time, frustrating touchdowns. But I don't think the Broncos are going to have 320 yards of offense in this one.
Yeah, they're not going to be gifted 3 extra possessions either.
I think the Broncos have around 275, 280 yards on offense. It's a bad offense. I don't think they're going to have 17 first downs like they had this last time. I don't think they're going to convert 6 third downs. I think that the Chiefs are going to have, like I said, a very efficient game. I can see the Chiefs winning this one 30-10. I think that's a solid score. I think 30-10, maybe an additional field goal for the Broncos, 30-13. But I'm gonna say 30-10. That's gonna be my score.
I'm gonna say 27-6.
Okay.
I like 27 again. I think that's a solid number for the Chiefs. I think a couple 3 touchdowns. I think Pacheco has a good chance to rush one in, though. I think that's definitely a realistic. If we get into the red zone on the between the 1 and 3 yard line, I think there's a good chance we let him just punch one in. He deserves one. He's been running his ass off. But also McKinnon can go out there and have another hat trick. I mean, shit, who knows? That guy's just been ridiculous. But I like our defense a lot. I don't think we allow a touchdown. I think we allow a couple field goals, and that's it.
Okay.
I don't think we allowed them to get within the 10-yard line.
Yeah. That's why I said I think the rest won't be like a deep ball, like a 40-yard touchdown.
Chuck it kind of play. And Cortland Sutton is playing, so Cortland Sutton is one of those guys that could give us trouble.
Jerry will probably play. Jerry Jeudy will probably play.
I mean, with him hyping up Russ all week, I hope he does. But I think our defense... massive. I mean, we put our defense in a terrible position last time we played them with all those turnovers, and because they were playing fairly well leading up to those turnovers. Once those turnovers happened, our defense was
incredible in that game.
That's what I'm saying. I don't expect those things. If we clean the game up, we don't have turnovers, I think our defense absolutely destroys. I mean, look what we just did to one of the better quarterbacks this year, one of the better offenses this year. We didn't allow them to score until late into the fourth.
Right. That's what I'm saying. I think it's very similar to that.
Yeah.
The Broncos get like one meaningful field goal, and then late in the game, Russ has a deep ball that goes,
I think our defensive line is going to go just have a day.
Yeah.
I think we're going to go get after Russ and make his day terrible. I don't expect them to score a touchdown. Like if at most, I think they get maybe 3 field goals to make it interesting and make the scoreboard look like something was there. But I don't think they're going to do shit. I think our defense balls out this week.
Yeah, I agree. I will name the 3 guys I think Patrick Mahomes throws the touchdowns to. So I think one's going to go to Juju. I think one is going to go. It's going to probably bite me in the ass because I've been talking shit. I think one's going to Justin Watson, and then I think Kadarius Toney gets another touchdown.
Yeah, man.
I think those are the 3 guys. I think Kadarius Toney's going to get another red zone touchdown.
having fun drawing up plays for Kadarius Toney.
I think Kadarius is getting another touchdown. That'll put 3 on the season.
That's my guy. Yeah.
And then I think, like I said, Justin Watson. I think Juju gets one as well. Those are my 3 guys.
I love it.
All right, that's our score prediction. That is our overlay of what we think is going to happen in this Chiefs-Broncos game. You guys let us know what you guys think is going to happen in this one, how you see it going down. Let us know, man, in the chat. We'd love to hear from you guys on YouTube. We've seen a lot more interaction on there, and we appreciate every single one of you guys. We need more, man. We want to hear more from you guys. We need to hear from more of you guys. But that is what we have as far as that game is concerned. Trevor, we have one more order of business to get to. What is it called? Hold this L! Each and every week, we finish off each and every episode with a series of L's in the world of sports. Whether those L's in the world of sports are so friendly or not so friendly, we promise you, who is ever holding those L's in the world of sports deserve those L's in the world of sports. Trevor Twidwell, for the 199th time, who's holding the L for you this week?
Listen, man. I'm all about romance. I love a good love story every once in a while. I root for it. I hope the best for people in their lives. But there's always this one like lingering, especially when it comes to athletes. There's always this lingering.
Linger.
There's always that cliche kind of story with the girlfriend, attaching yourself to the promising athlete that's going into the draft night and so on and so forth.
Thank you for bringing this up.
The one that always comes to my mind is always the 2 of the funniest ones that I've witnessed as like since I've been an adult and watching the draft and actually understanding what's going on and the idea of the relationship with the girls going in the draft and the athlete that's most likely that relationship's most likely not going to work out a lot of times. With the Russell Wilson one, with her David Spade looking girlfriend is freaking out next to him, dude. Oh my god, it's one of the funniest memes of all time. With her like absolutely just jaw to the floor excitement, and then he dumps her within weeks of it. It's just rough. I think it was it his wife? Mm-hmm. They were married. God, that's even worse. I forget about that. Either way, that just makes Russ even that much worse and the most unlikable guy possible. Or like even the CeeDee Lamb situation with the phone situation. That was so funny, man. Caught on live. But she was like, nah. That's one of the funniest ones, too. There's always those moments. And then there's always the story of the, I'm not going to use the word gold digger because I know that's just a frowned upon phrase.
Don't get us canceled now, Trevor.
It is what it is. People recognize it, whether you're female or male. People recognize it. There's male ones as well.
Yeah.
But either way, the one I'm alluding to is the story. I don't know if you guys saw it. A guy I like a lot in this league, and I thought was a great addition to the Mavericks this offseason, who was a good player for the Rockets previous seasons. A guy that wasn't drafted. Christian Wood recently came out about his story, talking about the night he didn't get drafted, which is crazy that he didn't get drafted because he's a very talented spread five kind of guy who's having a good career so far in his young career. Did not get drafted on draft night, and his girlfriend, I believe that night, left him and dumped him. Like I said, I'm all about romance. I encourage it. I encourage relationships and things like that for the people that are in the right situation to do so. This is just something I cannot stand. I hate the approach of a lot of these people in general. I'm not going to just single out women and say women are the only ones that do this. This happens a lot in relationships, especially people of notoriety and people of stature and status. Especially a young athlete going into making his dreams come true and the dreams of his family and whoever is attached to him come true, because he's going to be a meal ticket for a lot of people, and that tends to be a thing for a lot of people. But I just want to read this. So it says, NBA player Christian Wood's girlfriend dumped him after he broke into tears when he wasn't drafted the night the NBA drafted to the NBA as a top college prospect. 5 years later, he just signed his 3-year, $41 million contract with the Rockets, and then later got just recently traded last offseason to the Mavericks, where he's going to make much more there, I believe, because he's been a pretty integral part of that offense since the Porzingis movement and everything. Either way, and then he quoted that night of the draft when he didn't get drafted. He said, "I dropped her off," in quotes, "I dropped her off at the airport and never heard from her again." So needless to say, the joke is on her, and the guy is making nothing but life-changing money, multi tens of millions of dollars now. Yep. And I think he's only 23 years old, and he's 24 years old, making a killing in the NBA. He'll get another contract like that too. Playing alongside arguably the best player in the NBA right now with and Luka Doncic. Great situation for the kid. I couldn't be happier. This is a story that is a feel-good story for one, and then a really terrible feeling story for the other. And that other can do me a solid favor and hold this L.
Oh, I love that story. I'm so glad you brought that one up, man. I was hoping, when we first had the show arranged, I thought Eddie was going to be here, so I was like, maybe one of you two will talk about it. But I'm glad you did, Trevor.
Absolutely.
I don't believe in coincidences. I'm not somebody that believes in that. I think things happen because we make choices, and I think that life is what we make it to be. I very much believe that. I believe that some things in life we don't get to choose as far as like what our upbringing is, where we grow up, things like that, but we can always take it from there and make it the most of what we can make it. And again, I don't believe in coincidences because some things are just so goddamn obvious. All season long, even during the offseason, the moment we saw Russell Wilson signed with the Broncos, all the jokes, all the let's ride, all that funny shit, all the memes and all the photoshops and all that stuff we've really enjoyed. And then from week one, when he goes to Seattle, takes an L, plays okay. I think he had like 340 passing yards, but they only put up 16 points against a team that was not expecting anything. Goes out there, doesn't play well, and then it just gradually got worse as the season went on. He just played worse and worse and worse and worse, while still making a bunch of money, while having his own little office, while having, according to Marshawn Lynch and former teammates, that you have to go through his agent to get a hold of him. You don't even have like a cell phone number. All this stuff's going on. The chaos is just ensuing. And not one Broncos teammate came to his defense at all for the first 13, 14, 15 weeks of the season. Not one single guy. He just now got as many touchdowns as he has bathrooms in his new home in Denver. All the jokes are there. No one once came up. We heard about him training in the airplane when they're in midair. He's up there like doing his little hopscotches and shit. And no one is defending him through all of it on social media. No one's coming forward. In fact, we see Purcell, one of the veteran defensive players on their team, one of their best players on defense, is going at him, showing him up on the sidelines, and no one defended him. That's not until this last week when head coach Nathaniel Hackett gets the hack job and gets fired. And we all know the moment that happened, all the association comes about, oh, maybe they can go get Sean Payton and they can fix things. Ooh, maybe they can go get a Frank Reich, or they can go get some other really, maybe even a defensive-minded head coach like a Dan Quinn. They can go get somebody like that that can change the infrastructure of this team. They're going to need to convince them, though, because this is a mess. Russell Wilson's 34 years old, undersized, been sacked about 500 times in his career, and is playing by far his worst football of his career. And this team's got a lot of changes they're going to need to make on the offensive side. How do we get that kind of guy to get here? Well, maybe for the first time conveniently, players can come to Russell Wilson's defense. And what do you know? It happened. Jerry Jeudy. Here he is talking in the locker room about Russell Wilson.
Yeah, I felt good until I got there. I feel like a little bit of the cold had to do with it too.
Jerry, you took to social media to, support your quarterback, Russell Wilson.
Yeah, man, because why the media be trying to make it seem like it's sunny. Y'all don't really know what be going on in the locker room and stuff like that. And I'm just tired of reading things about my boy and making it seem like, oh, he's not a good teammate. He don't other unnecessary stuff that's not true. And I just want to get it out the air like that he is a good teammate, and he is a hard-working teammate. And I just feel like I just needed to get that out there because there's a lot of false narratives going around here that I'm getting tired of seeing.
What has he meant to you personally the last few months?
He meant a lot, man. Just being around Russ, he's a guy that just keeps me motivated. Just the way he go about his business, the way he carry himself, the way he do things around here. It just show the true leader and the true pro he is. So having a guy like that, you really see how to really become a pro.
So there's a lot to take from that. First of all, let me reemphasize the point I'm trying to hammer home here about all this is his teammates, Russell Wilson's teammates, have had literally all season to defend him, to come out and say those exact words. And have they done that week 3, week 7, week 11, I'd sit here and go, well, that's valid because everything's still in place and there's no other reason for them to do it other than just to defend their quarterback who they clearly still believe in, because that's evidence, that's proof. But you can't tell me that it's a coincidence that the week they fire their head coach and are now officially on the coaching search, guys like Sean Payton sitting out there looking for an opportunity, that these guys are now just all of a sudden, and it wasn't just Jerry Jeudy, by the way, there's like 2 or 3 other teammates that came out and defended Russell Wilson. You can't tell me that it's just a mere coincidence that multiple, not just one teammate for the first time all season, but multiple teammates at the exact same time come out and defend Russell Wilson. It'd been one thing if Russell was balling out for the first 6-7 weeks and then started playing bad football, and then a teammate said, okay, you know what, it's time to defend him because we saw it. We saw what he had in him. He still got it. That'd be one thing. That timing would make sense. He's been terrible all season. And not one teammate, not one, came out and said anything in defense. And again, if anything we've seen, it's the displeasure of his teammates coming at him. And the silence, to me, was deafening. The fact that nobody talked about it all year told me everything I needed to know. So no, I'm not buying anything Jerry Jeudy's saying. Because you know what else I saw? Jerry Jeudy having panic attacks on the field every third week because Russell Wilson wasn't hitting him in the end zone against the Chiefs. Wasn't hitting him on the sidelines. I saw Cortland Sutton against the Rams losing his shit because he wasn't hitting him on the flat when he's wide open. That can extended the drive. Instead, he threw the ball deep and got picked off. All I've seen and all I've heard from his teammates is the opposite of what Jerry Jeudy's trying to say. So I don't buy it that on the week that you're looking for a new coach to try to elevate your team and elevate your $240 million quarterback who has an office. And that's the funny thing about it. Jerry Jeudy's trying to say there's false narratives. What false narratives? Russell Wilson's been terrible. Russell Wilson's making a ton of money. Russell Wilson came in to be the savior. He hasn't been that. And he does have an offense. You know I know that? Jerry Jeudy confirmed it. So what's the false narratives? Where are we not getting the right information here? He did work out on the airplane. He is obnoxious. He did come up with that stupid-ass let's ride cliche. What? Please explain me, because Jerry Jeudy wants to say false narratives. What false narratives? What has been false? The only thing that's been false is your attempt to try to salvage the optics of your team in order to entice a proven head coach commodity like Sean Payton, who will not go there, by the way, because he knows better than that. Because best case scenario, Russell Wilson goes from shit to poop next year and is 35 years old and is still making an abundance of money that is still going to eat up your cap structure. So Jerry Jeudy, any of these other teammates that want to sit here and try to patronize me and everybody else, the listening audience and the media and everybody else with your bullshit about you're coming to defense of Russell Wilson all of the sudden in week 17, do me a solid, brother, and hold this L. I don't buy that for a second. I hope you don't either, Trevor.
Hell no, bro.
It's ridiculous.
Even if it is true, it doesn't matter. Y'all are losing games left and right. It doesn't matter.
We're going to give the Broncos 3 L's this year. You got 2 in the field and the 1 on here, the spoken podcast. That's a lot of L's for one team to handle 1 year. Nevertheless, this has been a fun show, as we do every single week, man. It's always a blast. This gets me out of the muck and the mire. It's always something I look forward to each and every week. That's why we do it each and every week. We don't miss time. Even when Trev's had to take time off or Eddie's had to take time off, I always feel like it's important for us to have a show, because people out there are also this is something that's important to them, or at least having people just to talk to sports wise is something that's important to all of us. And speaking of that, I want to just say real quick, Trev, because I feel this is important. I did touch on it on the Chief Concern post-game show this last week after the Seahawks game was on Saturday. We had our show on Friday, the day before, and I didn't feel that it was time to talk about it much or go into detail at all. Probably won't right now. But this is still the holiday season, and I wanted to put it out there to our listening audience, because I know some of you guys may not watch the Chief Concern podcast. If you don't, please go do. But if you hadn't seen what I had said to JD and Marcus, I wanted to put it back out there. This is a very tough time for a lot of people in the holiday season, and there are a lot of people out there that are suffering from mental health issues and depression, anxiety, sometimes both. Trevor and I, unfortunately, had a significant loss this last week, and it's absolutely devastated us. It's hard to talk about. I don't really like talking about it, but I know the only reason I'm bringing it up is because there are other people that are dealing with the same things, same tragedies, same devastations, or there's even people out there that are thinking about even taking their own life because they can't handle the pressures of life, or they feel like there's no hope. Look, I'm not somebody that's a life expert. I'm not somebody who's an expert at anything. But all I do know is that there are people out there that do genuinely love you and care about you. I know I have that. I have a guy right across from me that is my best friend, is my brother, and he would have my back no matter what. I have the same for him. That's what keeps me going. Having family, not a lot of family, but just enough people that I know I can rally around when I'm down, when I'm sad about things. And right now, full disclosure, I'm in that place. But I fight, and I continue to fight, because there are people that rely on me. Trevor has people that rely on him. And we all have those people. And that is why it's our responsibility to continue to push that further, to go one more day and fight one more day. As cliche and as cliche as that sounds, guys, I get it does. But as I've gotten older, I've realized how much importance there is in doing that, and how many people you affect on a daily basis. And it is not an answer. Suicide is not an answer. Suicide is not something that you should result, or you should go to. It should never be the way you go about things. It should never be a decision you make. There's always a reason to keep going. There's always people as to why you should keep going. And we have suffered because of that in our family. And I know that the holiday season, like I said, people start to do that stuff at a higher rate. Reach out to somebody, please. I'm begging you. Because I am somebody, Trevor is somebody now that we are the direct result of having to experience that loss. And I'm telling you right now, there's been nothing good of it. It's been very, very hard for us to process. It's been very difficult. It's been very emotional. It's going to change our lives for the rest of our lives, and it really, really sucks. So don't do that to your family. Don't do that to your friends. Don't do that to your loved ones, because it's going to affect them for the rest of their lives. And I know life gets tough, but I promise you it can get better. If you choose to take the steps, don't end it. Keep going. Keep fighting, guys. That's all I can say. Again, I'm not an expert. I'm not somebody that knows how to handle every single stress in life, because I know some of you guys go through things far worse than I do. I'm not trying to downplay what you go through. I'm trying to give you guys hope, because there's hope out there. If you need to reach out to me, you can message me. You can hit me up. I'm sure Trevor will hit you guys back, because we want to be help there. And that's why I'm reaching this out. That's why I'm putting this out here, because Trevor and I, we don't talk about our personal lives on here very much. We keep it to sports. But because of things like this that impact people so deeply, we felt the need to put it out there. And I wanted to put it out there again on this platform like I did on the Chief Concern podcast. And I can't thank JD and Marcus enough for allowing me that time. I have had messages from people. I've seen comments from people since I put that out there that thanked me for that. I'm not looking for that. All I'm looking for is to help. If my words here could help somebody not make that decision, that's all I care about. That's all I want to see. Reach out to me. Reach out to somebody you know cares about you, that loves you, because you're needed. That's the Spoken Podcast, episode 199. For Trevor Twidwell, for Eddie Ortiz, for the great Clay Windler, man. Happy birthday to you, brother. I love you so much. You guys have a happy new year. Love you guys.